Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Freeman Files here on the J Free 906 podcast channel. Wow, Mike, can you believe that we wrangled up all these guys to join us tonight?
It's been like herding cats. This is a lot of guys. A
Yeah,
lot of
I
good
know,
guys
right?
though, right?
We fantastic guys. Thank you all for joining us tonight. We have Mr. Pete Kelsey online, Mr. Dr. Jan Francke. I'm going to miss it if I miss a doctor here in this somewhere. I'm sorry, guys. Dave Mason, Ben Woodruff, and Chris Roberts. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. I really appreciate it. We're going to be talking about the Secret of Skinwalker Ranch Season 7 in its total tonight. And we may jump around a little bit, maybe talk about a little bit of old stuff from some of the old some previous seasons that was out there that's still pertinent today. And I'm going to throw this out there to Mike, first of all, and just say, Mike, did you think that this was the best season yet of the Secret of Skinwalker Ranch?
Every season is the best season. It's. I mean, if you go back and watch season 1, it's like a sleeper. I mean, I'm sorry, but compared to what they're doing now, it's amazing. Tech keeps increasing, getting better. Everybody keeps improving their stuff. Everything gets stepped up year over year. We keep learning just a little bit more. I know it's not as fast as some people might want, but believe it or not, that is how science works. And we just keep learning a little bit more and know more what to do, where to go, what to try, what to fix, and how to try and learn more.
Yep, absolutely. So for those of you who are not, part of the insider program out there, this is going to be, or for those of you that are, this is going to be a little bit like a insider Q&A because they talked about the entire season last night on the show, which was pretty good. So that's what we're going to do here tonight a little bit. And I wanted to bring up a few things. But again, thank you, folks, for joining us here tonight. We very much appreciate it. And if you like the content of the show we do here for you, give us a thumbs up. We appreciate that very much. It always helps with the YouTube algorithms. And also, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel. It helps us out with that as well, with new subscribers. Smurth, Heather, I enjoy all of the experts that are joining. You all bring so much to the investigation. Thank you. Yes, I wholeheartedly agree. Gentlemen, that's one of the things that and I've mentioned this before on the podcast, that I appreciate so much from Brandon and the original team was that to bring all of you on board throughout the seasons, because you are bringing new science, new technology, and new expertise to this investigation. Each one of you brings a certain special knowledge and expertise to this that goes, it's unprecedented. And like Brandon has said, this show is unmatched by anything that is given us all these details and taken us into this investigation the way it is. So I really want to thank each and every one of you for being part of this, because you have added so much to this. And I think at some point that all of you combined together, we're going to get some answers here as to what is happening on Skinwalker Ranch. Last night's episode, basically, let's get started. I have a few pictures, but I'm not really going to deal with a whole lot of them tonight, simply because, I have you here you guys here to talk and to share it with us. But, we know that the season finale started off with Brandon's conference room. Had many of you were in there and going through the episode. Now, all we started off with in there was the fact that they were really concentrating on the bubble, the triangle inside the bubble, whether or not there's anomalies happening or connection between the bubble area, the triangle, and Homestead 2, Homestead 3, Homestead 1, the drill site, all these other places. And is it affecting the animals on the ranch as well? So that's what they went through. More animal studies. Yes, indeed. I know, Craig, you're absolutely right. So as we go through tonight, the thing is UAPs, is that all there is? Is it all about getting the UAPs to show up? No, I don't think so. On that, and you guys have brought that to bear so very well. And feel free to jump in and cut me off at any point, because otherwise I'll just keep flapping my jaws here. And I really want to hear from you all. Let's start off with Ben real quick. I got a question for Ben. Mr. Woodruff, it says in here, biologist. Are you still with the Hutchings Museum Institute?
Yeah.
Okay. I've noticed that you have another podcast I wanted to talk about too, real quick. You have your own YouTube channel. One of them is Paranormal Frontier, right?
Mhm.
So, and is that your brother that you do that with?
It is. Yeah, I love being on everybody else's podcasts, and I believe, Chris and Pete and I have talked about this a bunch, about the idea of, like, all ships in the harbor rise together, and we all try to support each other in anything we're trying to get out. These topics really matter to me, and I think the more that we talk about them and normalize them, the more the public is talking about and discussing, the more external ideas you get. So yeah, we're covering everything in that. I really do believe that we're on the cusp of UAP disclosure, something I'm really passionate about. And if that does happen, and if that is what it seems to be, then I wanted to be able to have a platform already in place to be able to discuss that with people and help get people's thoughts, and just kind of help navigate that, because that could be, if that's real, then we're on the cusp of something big, where we right now are people who will be on the side of, we will have known pre and post disclosure. Everybody after us will just be a post disclosure world. So that's not the only topic we talk about on there, but we talk about everything.
Yeah. And Mike and I want to hook up with you and do some stuff, non-Skinwalker related stuff down the road. So we're going to be talking, because you got some. Hold on. A visual aid.
Oh, you got one? I got one. How about this? There's Patty. Look at that. Look at that baby.
Yeah.
There goes the neighborhood.
So we got some stuff we want to talk to you about for sure.
Coming up. I would love to.
Yeah. So one thing too, let's go over to Chris Roberts. Chris, you're new to this show, this channel as well, and you are still muted, sir. Again, as I was talking about before, there has been all this new expertise and technology brought to bear on Skinwalker Ranch. And when you came on the scene, I think it was like season 5, when you came on the scene, I was happy. I was really, really happy to see you come, because you were able to then start using archaeology into what's coming out of the Mesa. And that was so impressive to me. I mean, can you talk a little bit, and again, you're still muted, but can you talk a little bit about how you got started with Skinwalker Ranch and how this all became, or how you got on the show and all of that?
Yeah, I can give a briefing on that. So, originally, I'm from the Uinta Basin. I'm originally from California, but I grew up in the Uinta Basin in Vernal. Actually, went to elementary school all the way through high school in Vernal. And I did, in my early 30s, I was back here doing archaeology again after I went away for quite a while. And I knew about Skinwalker Ranch, but I'd been gone for quite a few years. But then in 2021, I believe it was, just had a random encounter at a secondhand antique shop with Tom and Candace, where Candace was working there. My wife was buying a giant piece of an antique, a big kind of red and white hutch. And Tom and I were called to come and load it into a trailer so we could haul it home. And that's where we met them. And then they told us, we manage a place, we were talking archaeology because Candace was an anthropologist. And then they said, maybe we should get together sometime, play some music and, have dinner or whatever. Are you guys superstitious or anything? And it was kind of a weird question. And it was like, No, not really at all. And kind of more interested in that kind of thing. And they said, well, we're caretakers at at a Skinwalker Ranch, and I hadn't heard the name in years,
Wow.
since probably 2009 or 10, when after the book came out, and a bunch of people I worked with were trying to get in the gates all the time, other archaeologists. And so I was like, I'd love to come over there for dinner. And by the way, who's doing your archaeology? And
Yeah.
there was basically, well, nobody's really doing that. So we planned a dinner event that happened. I was always on the road. So we planned a dinner event probably 6 months later, something like that, and went there for dinner to talk about archaeology. It turned into probably the most significant event that night due to something I won't go into here that happened that night there with my wife, and with some things that were found at the ranch that they filmed about, and they may show it, they may not. I did talk about it on the cruise, but that can be a later conversation when we talk again. But we talked about the archaeology, and then turned out at the same time, we got we ended up renting a place to their producer, Jason Shook in Vernal, and that was unrelated to us. They found us to rent the place at the same time to talk about what happened there that they filmed there. Um, and meanwhile, I had already started with Candace and Tom and another archaeologist I've worked with in the past, surveying the ranch, and that was in 2020, end of 2022, 23, I think. And in order to give them an inventory of what was there. And so that was, again, that was probably season 3 or 4, and it was like just to give them their information to where they don't, nothing gets destroyed. It is private land; they can do with it what they want. But I wanted to extend that. The opportunity to do archaeology on private land in a private venture like that is pretty rare. Usually, it's public lands that you have to do the archaeology. And Brandon was very into preserving that, and so I just started surveying everything. So here's your sites, here's your areas that are clear of sites, and it went from there to a lot of getting to know Jason Shook and talking to him. And one day he said, we've got these boreholes going in the mesa, and I was like, yeah, you do have these boreholes going in the mesa. And he said, why don't you come out? We want to talk about other archaeology, but this will station you at the ranch where we can do the real archaeology while you're just kind of checking to see if anything comes out of the mesa, anything that's not not supposed to be there.
Right.
That's how I got there in season what was that, for 6 or 5? 6.
Yeah.
We're filming for that. And then after a while of doing that, and it was basically due diligence of looking to see what was coming out, and are there any interesting minerals? Is there more of the metal stuff that came out of there? Is any more of the green jelly coming out of there? And what might there be?
Right.
And lo and behold, we found the ceramic like material that was not supposed to be there. Shouldn't have been there at all. And that's what started that there. And then it was like, well, you went from a maybe you'll be on film to you just found something pretty significant right here. And again, I didn't plan on doing film. I just wanted them to know what was there to where it
Right.
didn't get destroyed, and provide that opportunity. And then it was pretty mind blowing what we did.
Yeah,
That's what got me there.
I'm going to show a couple of pictures here. Of course, this was you up on the mesa getting a few things started there. There's some of that ceramics that you found.
Yeah, I can tell you that picture right there. I can tell you all about it. There are 5 pieces of the ceramic-like material there. There is one rock. That's how similar they are to the sandstone. If you zoom in there, there's actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's one in the middle there of the kind of medium-sized pieces. That's actually a piece of sandstone. Not that one, the one right next to it, to the right.
Here.
That is sandstone. The other one are the ceramic-like materials.
Wow.
And that's how close they are until you get into it, that they're magnetic, that they have the crosshatch patterning on them, they have impressions on them, that they're porous. They're not like sandstone, which is just concreted sand together. So they're very different, but that's how much they look similar. And then especially when you get them under a black light, they just pop. Versus the
I got a question
sandstone
about
goes
about
almost
that.
black.
the crosshatch pattern,
Mhm.
it's difficult to tell and get a good camera angle from our
Yeah,
perspective.
I
So
think
what is that? What is it? What do you think it's from? Is it like a basket weave pattern, or is it machine marks? What is that?
that would have been something I would have thought. Is it a basket weave, right? Is that what it's pressed against? But it's not. It is what it was, which we haven't discovered yet. Probably what it was adhered to was causing that, where it was put against something, and so it's causing what looks like a crosshatch glazing. But I'm not 100% because there's also another um, impression on them as well that is a much more distinct crosshatch pattern. So there's a couple different patterns on them. They're very anomalous. And very different and completely unnatural. It's not a mineral thing. It's not fossilized. It's completely different as to what they are. And we need to get in the mesa to get more of them and to find them in place in situ to see where they're coming from.
Yeah, there was you mentioned the black light, and there's a couple of pictures here, and I have this one here. When you put them inside that booth, that little screened area there, and you put the black
Yeah,
light on them, and then you came up with some different looking pieces here for
yeah,
sure. And you were
yeah.
able to you started coming up with some dates here, and I was pretty blown away initially. What was can you talk about that process a little bit?
So I'm glad you cued in on that on some dates, and they're very loose dates. But if you zoom in on that image there, you've got, I think, up at the top, the kind of yellowish one. That's the type 2
Mhm.
that we came away with, which is similar but different than the type 1. It's
Mhm.
more dense. It still has this kind of glazing on it. It does have a pattern to it. It is not anything natural. It is ceramic like as well. The other pieces there, I'm not sure. Actually, those might be three pieces of actually the type 1 that are there in that image. But otherwise, I had it compared to also Fremont ceramic, that goes dark. It absorbs light. Now, in talking about the dates, it's a hard thing if you talk about like patina on rock art and how to date that, right? You have a certain environment, you have a certain mineral that's accumulating in a certain area, and then it develops over the rock art that was pecked in there. So what we have on this material that I mentioned in the show that Travis was kind of surprised at is that you have what are called post-depositional accretions. And they are on this material in multiple areas, and they develop after something is deposited somewhere. And it's not a usual thing you find on ceramics that are young. You won't find them because it takes time to erode to create the cavity, and then it takes time for the mineral to build up in there. Just like a patina is basically what it is. And it could be manganese, it could be iron oxide, it could be other minerals. And that is showing on the surface a very ancient um, depositional time period.
Wow.
And so it we have to get into mesa to know, because based on the hydrology, based on if they're packed within bedrock, or whether, like, because that's what we're doing, we're drilling through layers of bedrock. You watched this last season, you saw what we have, just layer after layer, a few feet thick of bedrock stacked up, and you don't get to the sediment till you get well below a lot of bedrock. And so we assume they came out of packed bedrock, which would be a very stable environment to accumulate accretions. Now, if you had an open cave and they're just sitting there with manganese dripping in water, right? Because we know the mesa is really wet, right? It's fairly dry. There was just a little bit of moisture up there, which we did. I believe we showed that. There's a little bit of moisture in between some of the sandstone layers. Otherwise, they're just like a layered cake, and there's nothing in between. It's very dry. But if they were in between that area where there is some moisture coming through, some hydrology, it could accumulate faster. But if you take it and just be very conservative, what that date could be, it could be from 1,000 years if it was a very active environment where it accumulates, or it could be 45,000 years, or it could
Wow.
be more than that, depending on the environment. We have to get to them in situ in the mesa to know that. Otherwise, it's just just a hypothesis that they could be ancient, but they are not 50 years old. They are not 100 years old.
Right.
They could not accumulate that quickly.
Yeah. This is crazy stuff because what in the world are those ceramics doing in there in the first place? And then watching the testing of these things when they were taken to the lab and tested, um, it kind of blew my mind initially, looking at the electron microscope, and then the holes were starting to appear, what looked like holes or cavities or dark spots, and then how they kind of grew back when the light was or went back to normal, and when the microscope was turned off, they kind of went back to normal. And then to look at the hardness of them, the fact that they put the liquid nitrogen in there and it boiled and boiled and boiled and boiled and boiled for such a long time. What in the heck are these things? This is manufactured material, right? I mean, it
It
does.
is, yeah. I've tested it against all the natural stuff in there. There are so many of these attributes we talked about with the magnetism, with the UV reactivity, where they fluoresce, and again, the whole mesa does not. So even if they were like, let's say they were some kind of mineral that hadn't been discovered yet, that they accumulated in there, there's nothing that comes out of the mesa that fluoresces like that. So it's really, really unique. And then the patterns just do not happen in nature. And again, they looked when they first came out, I thought they were like a heat tile in a stove, and that's kind of what it looked
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
or even an asbestos type material.
Yep.
That I was like, this. Why did somebody have a stove in the mesa? That's what I thought. I was like, this doesn't make sense. They're not curved like you would have, let's say, a real ceramic, like a saucer, right? Maybe we do have a saucer in there, but it's not a little one you put a cup on. But they're very unique. The porosity that's in them, they've got just filled with pores. When I first looked at it, thinking this is ceramic, well, all the temper's blown out of them. There's no temper in them, but that wasn't what it was. And I thought the temper was on the outside, but when you really analyze it closer, it's not temper, it's accretions. And you won't see that with a what I thought was basically a historic ceramic. And they're nothing like the prehistoric ceramic in the area, whether it's the Numic, which is 500 years old, to the Fremont that you might be dealing with 1500 years old. Nothing like it at all. That stuff is very
That's great.
for a ceramic, very crude compared to modern historic ceramics. Temper shoved in it, kind of baked unevenly, all these different things. You know what Fremont ceramics look like. There's nothing in prehistory that looks like this material.
Wow. Yeah. And even that team couldn't even figure it out. I had their picture. We're going to get to that. Keep that question up there, Linda. But these guys here, when they looked at it, they were like, it can't be dated. We don't know. And we're not even
No,
sure.
that's
Exactly
the thing. We send it off to them for thermoluminescence,
Yeah.
where it was baked over 450 degrees.
Yeah.
It came back, and I don't know if you saw my face on the show, but I'm like, "What do you mean you couldn't date it?"
That's what we
And
were
they're
saying
like,
and
"It's
watching it.
like a plaster." And then I'm going, "Okay." So when you say a plaster, you say it is so, and it's vitrified. This stuff is vitrified. Like I said, it's very porous.
Mm-hmm.
It's chemically heated. So think of that differently, like JB Weld, like a polymer. It's different. And then we took it off and got it under the FTIR so we could see that there is carbon present. Now it could be a contamination carbon, or it could be fossilized carbon. We don't know that for sure, but it can possibly be dated. And that is our next step for this material, because I want to date. And again, accretion dating, I'm looking at it and I'm going, okay, it demonstrates, it has characteristics of being very ancient, but until I get into the mesa, I can't say what the environment is.
Right.
But if we can do some dating, some AMS dating, get some radiocarbon going, and actually find something we can get date off, then great, we can go from that. Now, if it comes back millions of years old, then we're dealing with fossilized carbon, and that's probably not it. But it has the sign on the FTIR that it will date. It does have what we need there, and so that is the next step with that material.
Good.
Wow.
Good.
Fantastic. That's great stuff, man. I tell you what, that's one of the many enigmas. Yeah, we got UAPs flying around, and we got what appears to be some sort of a portal, wormholes, whatever going on. Yeah, electromagnetic fields going on. And then we've got ceramics in the mesa and metals coming out of the mesa that shouldn't be there. And it's like, okay, and again, why I'm so glad you're there to go through all of these things. We'll get back to you because we got some more questions for you in a
Yeah,
little
get
bit.
moved.
So here's a question for David Mason and Jan Francke. The hot spots that were seen in the FLIR, is that the same area as the debris field? I think they're, if I'm correct, Amy, are you talking? Whoop, no, you can't really see them. Let me try a different view here. Are we talking about these? Are you talking about those hot spots? Is that the ones you're referring to? That were seen on the FLIR on the second to last episode there on the, and I kind of wanted to ask about those as well. Is that where is that located, David?
That's from the triangle view. It's north of the triangle, and I believe it is in the vicinity of where the archaeological digs have been going on.
Okay.
And that is something that wasn't fully explained in the footage was that these temperatures manifested, and understand these are large boulders after some explosions, and the heat is just a momentary heat. It's not enough to heat up boulders and then sustain that heat over it. So the time constants aren't going to give you that residual. I would expect that if we had plants on the mesa, and you would get a momentary flash of heat, but not a sustained heat. And this is what was very strange about the temperatures of this phenomenon.
Yeah.
And we also experienced this back in season 4 when the Ute Indians were playing the drum.
Yes, I remember that.
We had boulders heating up in the mesa. One that was about the size of a school bus that just heated up.
Wow.
It was crazy. And this is in differential FLIR, so this is using technology that I developed because it allows us to see what is changing, and it'll look at what temperature changes over a broad range of temperature. So it's kind of hard to wrap your head around it because you can have a very cold temperature and a high temperature, and then my differential circuitry will sample everything. And then whatever's changing within those temperatures, we can look at something that's very hot, and if it's just slightly changing, we'll see that. If something's very cold. So we don't really have, say, a delta per se. We don't have a temperature that we can read and say, well, this is the spot temperature, because once my differential FLIR is running, we actually do not have accurate temperature readback as we can get with conventional FLIR. And I always run a conventional FLIR as a baseline, for the process.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. See, that was exactly the question that I was wondering about too, is that, I said, well, you got all these explosions going off all the, over here that they're doing with all this heat, and we can't feel it watching TV, but you can almost feel it, it just seems like it. But I was wondering again, was it hot enough to make those rocks hold that heat for a very, for very long? And apparently not.
From that, and I would dare anybody to be able to use their own FLIR and try to replicate that. First off, they don't have differential FLIR, because I'm the only one who has this because I invented it. This is what we were able to detect, but I know that the sustained heat is, how could it just be there and then it stays static? It doesn't shift. Because if it was a sudden heat up, then we would have a sudden decay.
Right.
And, just from the laws of physics of matter, it just correlated to, abrupt. I wish we had it right on sync with the explosions and then the rocks heating up. But I remembered it was really close on the time signature, and it was only during that time throughout the night. So it didn't make a lot of sense as far as why boulders were heating up, and we all see this kind of strange phenomenon or instruments. You really can't explain it.
Yeah, that's and that's the, I know, and I know it has to frustrate you a little bit, because it certainly does us, because I'm looking at that going, oh, wait a minute, but like you say, no, that's not how it works.
It's as if it's something trying to communicate, but in different ways, like mess with our equipment, change the operating system in a piece of equipment so that it gives a new function that it didn't have, or just deletes a function. Something that wouldn't happen under a failure or ordinary failure. It's happened to everybody. I've been fortunate that most of my equipment stayed solid in this.
Yeah, I wish everybody could say that, but not you know, most everyone in this room, yeah, there's John shaking his head. Yeah, it happens. Yeah, and then we got the guy with the jet engine.
Oh, he was upset. I'll tell you. I was standing next to Brandon when the radio call came in. He used some really big, colorful metaphors that were not copied into the episode.
There were some beeps. There were some beeps going on.
There were some additional. He was genuinely frightened and genuinely upset about the whole thing.
Yeah,
and you can sense it. I mean, this was, he didn't expect any of this to happen. To have his equipment just shut down like that in the moment of what would have been his moment of triumph.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that was pretty crazy. Now we did have a couple of quick questions. One of them was, is it possible to overlay the various occurrences of hotspots on the mesa to see if there is a pattern or the same boulders heating up? Is there any overlay? Is that possible to do anything like that?
That's a good question. I don't actually have a picture of that, but I could look at some of the footage and see if there is a pattern where we can see if those are the boulders correlating to the hotspots.
Mm-hmm. What was that, Pete? What'd you say?
If GPS worked.
Yeah. If GPS was working, now you might be possible, right? Yeah. And then the Tay24 asked, how much of a change in temperature was there? They mentioned 20 degrees last night.
The change it. Are we talking about the ambient temperature or the FLIR?
I think how much hotter were those rocks to ambient?
Hotter of the rocks. So it'll detect down to 30 millidegree Kelvin change, but I had the temperature span on the differential set to, so colder is going to be black, hot is going to be white, and I had the span set to 3.6 degrees Fahrenheit. So if I look at that, I would say the temperature difference between the mesa and the boulders was about a 2.5 degree difference, which is actually pretty significant when we're talking about the mass and then the time frame. And it was something sudden. Now, if you had an environment change, you would expect everything else in concert with it to, as we get colder and hotter, it's gonna follow suit with it. But this was rather sudden, and then it just stayed static. It stayed at the same value. That didn't make any sense to me. I've played around with this in other sites, other locations on it, and it's always at Skinwalker Ranch. Things are different. I mean, that's all I can say.
Yeah, we get that quite a bit, don't we? We're going to come back to you, David, because there's much more that happened during this season that we have to talk about. I'm gonna throw one over here to Jan. Jan, we went through your waiting, I should say, quite a bit of time. You would come out, you'd do some scans with GPR, and then we'd have to wait a couple of episodes to see what in the heck is his data. What is it revealing? And they were teasing us a little bit about that. Now I know that you went in originally. You had sent down, I think it was borehole. Oh my gosh, one was it? One that went all the way through, or two? One.
No, one. Two doesn't daylight yet.
Yeah, that's right. And so thank you guys, Sandra. Thank you so much, and Craig. I saw that too. Thank you, Craig. But we know you put that first one down there and it came back, it was scrambled. You couldn't really use it. It was like something was, I don't know, the talk back you were talking about was messed up and you weren't getting good data. And then you changed it, and now you came back with what you encoded it a little bit, right? On the second
That's
time.
right. A lot. Yeah. So it's what we call the coded radar, an encrypted radar. And instead of a simple pulse, it is a series of pulse, kind of like Morse code. It's like an entire sentence. And we cross-correlate that when it comes back, and we only listen for that sentence. So if we are just putting a pulse in theory, I guess, if there is some sort of mechanism in the mesa that could respond at a similar pulse width and amplitude, then of course the radar is going to get confused because it doesn't know where that pulse is coming from, right?
Right.
But instead of a single pulse, if we send out a train of pulses that are essentially a sentence rather than a word, well, what are the chances that the mesa knows the entire sentence? Heck, I even forgot the sentence once I built it. So, and thankfully, whatever, I don't want to say it's an intelligent force there, but whatever interference source there is, we seem to be able to bypass it with the coded radar.
Yeah. And you got data back. Go ahead.
So yeah, I was going to ask, so do you think you've kind of cracked that nut? Do you think you have the uncorruptible GPR? Kind of like Pete said he had an uncrashable drone once.
Right. Yeah.
Didn't you, Pete?
Yeah.
Did that work out okay?
No.
I have an obscene finger gesture in mind. But I will refrain.
How did your insurance premiums feel about that uncrashable drone?
I have another obscene finger. Love you guys. I really do.
I'd like to say that a coded transmission and a coded receiver that only listens to that one sentence is probably the way that we're going to go forward on future investigations. It just makes sense, and we got reasonably good data.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah. Go ahead, Mike.
No, I was going to say, I feel like this is a little bit unfair because I think really between Chris and Ben, just because of the nature of what they do, they really haven't gotten skinwalkered in the magnitude that you guys have. It's hard to skinwalker a trowel and a screen and sifting, and Ben, is out looking at dead animals. So, and live and tracks and things. There's not high technology like uncrashable drones and things like that. So, I guess the question I would have is between Chris and Ben, do you feel like you've gotten skinwalkered in some way that maybe is different than just on national TV, your best and brightest invention doesn't work?
Yeah. There's a lot that doesn't end up on the show, and sometimes some of the things we've talked about, some of those things that are pretty profound. I always say this. We talk about this in private. We have so many good conversations in private off the show, and one of the things I always say is if a UFO came down, landed, and some non-human intelligence came out and waved, that'd be profound. But I mean, it's like, yeah, and okay, wonderful, exciting, thrilling, but that's not breaking the laws of reality as we know them. It's like we assume that things can fly. We assume that space travel works somehow. Some of the stuff that happens, some of the stuff Chris finds, literally rewrites human history. And some of the stuff I find just totally goes against our entire knowledge of how biology works all the way down to the cellular and microbial level. And it might not make for the most compelling television, but it's more profound than if an alien landed and said hello. It's not more exciting, but it's more profound.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Chris, same question. Anything,
What's your skinwalker story? Oh, your audio your audio just got skinwalkered. There we go. You were bubbly.
My audio, I'm getting skinwalkered this
whole
Oh man. My God.
Like
Chris is the secret to Skinwalker Ranch.
Chris is the alien.
Oh, there you go.
Your audio is still a little off.
Yep.
A little?
You might have to disconnect and reconnect there.
That's the alien filter. You should patent that.
Yeah, pop out and come back. While he's doing that, I'm going to show this. Maybe you should. Yeah, there he goes. All right, so I'm going to show this picture here. This is Jan showing his new and improved GPR unit that's going down into the borehole that ended up getting us some pretty good data. Now, one of the things that we got, Jan, right at the final episode there, actually it wasn't quite the final. This one here, you came back and, well, Mike, why don't you,
unfortunately, I think you'll get to see the show at some point. Your Canada gets it here shortly, but
I still wouldn't watch it.
I know that when you came back and talked about this, you can just tell that you gave an epic, wonderful explanation, and they cropped it to you saying it's metal.
That was it.
And that was all we got. We're like, oh,
That doesn't surprise
come
me at all.
on. He does so good at explaining this stuff. Just let him say it. So what is that? What were we seeing?
Right. Well, this is the nature of how production companies work. They want to simplify the science as much as possible to make it more attractive to the viewing public, which is great. I get that. That's how the the advertising dollars work, and that's how it draws people in. But I'm here for no other reason than to understand what's going on, and it's an interesting site to be at. So I love educating people. And essentially what we're seeing there is, okay, let's back up for a second. What is the radar really doing? It doesn't find things or objects, it finds contrasts, okay? Contrasts in what? Well, contrast in something called dielectrics. Now, that's a scary word. We don't need to go there. Essentially what that means in a geological context is slight changes in water. Okay, so what does that mean? Okay, well, water. Well, if you go from dry sandstone to a slightly increased amount of moisture in one layer, which does sometimes happen depending on the clay mineralogy, you'll get a reflection. It's really sensitive to changes in moisture. Okay, what if you have let's say we have an entirely air-filled void? Well, air's pretty darn dry. That's a heck of a reflection, right? What if we have a water-filled void? Another huge change in water. Well, the one thing that doesn't fit the dielectric scale is metal, anything metal. Radar does not penetrate through metal. Any radar cannot, will not, ever will not do it. It's not about technology, it's just all physics. Okay, metal is kind of like an infinite dielectric. So what ends up happening is that if you hit metal, you get a reverberation. Essentially, it's like ringing a bell. It goes doing, doing, and back and forth, right? So if you put that back up on the screen, that's not the shape of the metal at all. What it's showing is right at the top, those two pieces, what's happening is as the radar hits the metal, it's just bouncing back and forth between the radar and the metal, and it's showing this repetitive pattern. So don't read into that there's, some magical zebra living in the mesa. It's not. It's just we have hit something that is definitely metallic. Now, what does metallic mean? What does that actual word mean? Is it shiny? Can I hit my head on it? Can I drive a nail into wood with it? Well, maybe. There's a lot of things that are metallic on the elemental the table of elements that aren't hard metal, right? So there can be ceramic, for example, that show metallic properties, but is not bright and shiny and silver colored. So in this context, I don't know what metallic means, but it certainly has the reflectivity to the radar of some metal. And we're not talking like, a can of bubbly sort of stuff. We're talking, this needs to be multiple meters. So quite a few feet across, and we've crossed at least twice. What is it? Not a clue. Yet.
All right.
Yet.
I'm glad you put that on there. Yet.
Absolutely. I'm sure there are more holes to be drilled.
Well, we certainly hope so.
Yeah.
Because we know that you were also involved in, and I'm just going to throw this out there while we have you talking about this, is that they after you saw this here, they said, okay, well, we got 4 nice big boreholes out here for you, and we're gonna your work here is not done yet. And then they had you come back, and I was really surprised. I'm going to put this picture up on the screen. I was really surprised to see this unit going down into a borehole.
That was not planned. That was like,
Really?
we need to stand around this hole. How can we do this? And I'm looking at the cart going, I don't know, Thomas, do you have any rope? Are you strong enough to lower this thing down? He's like, sure. So this is not the way I would do it, from an OSHA standpoint. Like, that wasn't super safe. We would use winches. We would use a pulley, of course. But yeah, I mean, we literally lowered what is ostensibly supposed to be a system that's designed for archaeology. So it's a surface, high resolution GPR. Oh, cool. I never actually saw the footage of the GoPro that they put on there. And we lowered it down the hole because it gives us an opportunity to look sideways from the hole in 4 cardinal directions, right? And that was really interesting. We actually ended up finding something really interesting on the south side. I don't know if they actually showed it. What did they? Oh, that's it. There you go. We did talk about it. Yeah. I forget these things.
Yeah, we got the hit right there. And
Yeah.
what that ended up, the explanation for the rest of us was that, it's an object and it looks like a hole that is 18 to 20 feet down, that begins 18 to 20 feet down.
Hmm.
And so it was said that, well, this must be, that borehole that was coming up there
Yeah.
that never made it to the surface,
Yeah.
that they said was 33 feet down, according to the beacon, that 33 megahertz beacon that they had
Right.
said it was 33 feet down and stopped right there. But your technology is saying no, it's 18 to 20. That's the way it was
Right.
presented.
And
And
I would
that's a
probably agree
void.
with-
Is that a void?
It is, and look at the difference, right? From the previous image where we had that repetitive zebra stripe, this is a single yeah, right. Look at the big difference, right? So we have this repetitive zebra, and what's happening there is it's hitting metal and bouncing back and forth, just reverberating. Whereas when we hit a void, it actually enters the void. We lose the signal. So what we're getting is a single reflector, and it's so strong, it's either full of air or, I suppose, full of water theoretically, but we'll assume it's not full of water. But that's probably not metal. I hope I can say that. I don't know if that contradicts what was on the show.
No,
but I
no,
would say,
they never said. They said it was a hole.
oh, it's definitely, and knowing, Thomas describing where the borehole ended up,
Yeah.
I bet you that's what I'm seeing is the head of the borehole where they stopped.
Yeah, which would have been this one right here.
Yeah.
That was coming up. And so that really kind of rang to all of us really quick to say, now wait a second. It's supposed to be 33 feet down, but now 18 to 20. Who was off? Was it the beacon that was off? Is it yours? Is it off? Are they both wrong based upon some weird interference from something? I'm going to assume that unit that you put down the hole, the ground unit with the wheels on it, that does that also have the encoded, the sentence, or is
It does
that
not.
okay?
Actually, it
So
does
could have
not.
been,
That's
it
a
wasn't
very
interference with,
simple.
or was it? Yeah.
Yeah. So the depth we got from that, we are quite confident it's 18 to 20 feet because we are measuring the odometer as it slides down the side. We've got the wheels. That's why I left the wheels on it. So I would get the
Right.
depth. Obviously, GPS is not going to work in the hole. So I use the odometer that we would usually use along the ground to get linear distance. Now we're using it for depth down the hole. And that's why Thomas was pulling it back so that it would always push against the side of the hole.
Right.
So our distance is pretty darn accurate. We know that's also a directional radar. It's pointing in the direction of the bottom of that cart. So we know that hole is, 18 to 20 feet. I'll give it a little bit of leeway there because Thomas slipped a little bit here and there. And it is, whatever distance out from the hole, we know where that borehole is. So if the drillers think it's 33 meters, then we've got a problem because that's, a good 50% off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I guess
right.
how much can we trust that 33 megahertz signal? They were having lots of trouble connecting
We've
with
always
that.
had problems with it. It runs around. It starts sliding around the mesa. And
Right.
and this is not new technology. It's not unique to these guys in Utah that go and drill. This is used around the world every day for horizontal directional drilling, and it is super infrastructure critical technology that is proven time and again. So, and I know that they've used different beacons. It's not just one bad beacon that they have. They've used other beacons, and they get similar results. That there is an inconclusive positioning, or the position's just completely garbage of where that head of the drill is. And man, if that happened anywhere else, that you could hit a fiber optic line, you could hit a gas line and kill somebody.
Yeah.
You better know where that drill is to within a few inches all the time.
Mm.
And they don't at all on the ranch. They are completely guessing. And we just proved how off they were by 50%, man. That's crazy.
Yeah, there's several people in the chat that are referring to the fact that when it's going down, is it for sure turning and getting exact good odometer reading as it's going down? It could skip, it could slide.
And that's why I say 18 to 20, right? We were watching it, and we did have a lot of camera people on it, like obviously it's not just Thomas and myself there. There's a whole crew watching it carefully. So they were reporting, and it was like, no, it's going okay. So it wasn't just us. There were other people watching this thing.
Yeah. So, but that's pretty crazy. And again, like Mike said, it leaves us with that question going, okay, are both of these wrong? Is the beacon wrong? Was it being messed with or manipulated? Is your the GPS is it wasn't running on GPS because it was in the hole, but is it messing with your technology, to try to mask exactly where the anomaly is in the mesa? The answer to that is we just don't know, right? At this point, we can't.
Well, look, I don't think this is equated to the same anomaly that we've seen from the surface or from the boreholes itself with the snake radar. I actually think this is a man-made. This is literally the head of the hole that hadn't penetrated all the way. It hadn't daylighted it, right?
Right.
So, how could we be wrong? Well, if you go back to that image of the borehole radar, the radar that we slid down the side of the borehole, the image went all the way through, and I think the entire borehole is 33 feet or something long, which tells us that, hey, this thing's not even close to the end. It's halfway down. So yeah, it is 18 to 20 feet. I'm pretty confident about that. I can't see any mechanism for error there at all.
That's good.
Like literally, it's a measuring tape. We can't screw that up.
Yeah. No, I'm glad you that you got that, because that did leave a lot. I saw, again, questions popped up, of course, from people, asking about that. But if you're confident, then I'm confident, because, and I say that.
About that.
Yeah, good, because I say that quite often. When I'm starting to question something that we're seeing on the show, I always try to qualify it by saying, folks, we're not there. We're not boots on the ground, and we know there's so much of this film that we don't see. It ends up on the cutting room floor.
Totally.
We have to go with what you guys explain, whether it's Pete talking about his equipment or whatever. We have to go with what you guys are explaining, because we're not there.
Yeah.
So go with the experts on the ground. You guys are seeing it. So thank you for that. I appreciate that. That was really interesting to me, to say that was off that far. Because there was the question about, when you had Caleb drag the snake GPR back and forth across the mesa to detect these anomalies in the first place, this large anomaly, and then the debris field that they're calling a debris field. When you went through all this process, I'm wondering, is it possible, or, would they have you come back and do it again? I would like to see it done again at some point.
Oh, we've done that multiple times. I don't know if it's being shown on the show, but we've done it year after year.
Oh, wow.
Literally.
Okay.
I think Caleb and I have walked that bloody thing probably, 6-7 times, and it's always there. Absolutely. Perfect. Nothing changes.
That's perfect.
Yeah. I have no idea if they play that on the show, but we asked Caleb. He's walked it. Actually, a few times he walks beside me and talks to me while I do the work. So I think I did more walking, but whatever.
Wow. Well, Pete, we've left you pretty quiet over there. I gotta take some, a few shots. Again, Pete and I, he's been on the show many, many times, and we love dearly to have you on. Absolutely. One of the things that we talked about, Super Pete, hanging out the side of along with a guy that's on the other side of the helicopter, hanging out on a harness, doing the hard work, giving it all for science. That it's so important. But you left us with a cliffhanger, and it was this right here, this marker. And when I first saw it in the first clip, for when they had it on last week and they were showing next time on Skinwalker Ranch, I thought it said 1960, and I really liked that date. Now it's 1963, which is even more intriguing. And they made quite a big deal about this on the show last night. This marker, and I wanted to ask you about it a little bit. So this is a survey marker from the Corps of Engineers. Is that what you had come up with on that?
That's where the evidence points.
Okay. All right. So
this is forgive me, this is a big deal.
Okay.
This is a big deal, and we can talk about it.
Yeah, whatever you're allowed to say on that. I know that it may come up again next season. We don't know for sure, but and I know Mike has got a little bit of information about this thing as well. But so
Well,
this thing,
would
Go
you
ahead.
put the image up again?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Right
And
here.
I'll
we go.
explain what we're
right.
looking at.
All right.
So the big white thing, that is a bird dropping.
Oh, this right here. Oh, okay. I was wondering. Yeah.
Yeah. Because anything that sticks up out of the ground that gives
Sure.
visibility for a long, long way is a
Yeah.
really good perch. Okay. So what we're looking at, so you see the T intersection of two lines.
Right here. Yep.
So the long line is east to west.
Okay.
The shorter line indicates due south.
Okay.
Now, all the nomenclature on it, the T2S, R1E, S5, blah, 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 that is well known. This is a system known as township and range. Okay.
Uh-huh.
It is a centuries old grid based system of measurement. Okay. Not as old as latitude, longitude, but right up there. It's very well known in the land surveying industry. The point here is there are two things, and I thought Prometheus did well in the episode last night. The date is a big deal.
Yep.
And typically, if you know survey monuments, I do. I'm going to assume the audience does not. Typically, it is clearly indicated when it was placed and who placed it.
Ah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So it was placed in 1963.
Yep.
Who placed it is a little bit nefarious or enigmatic. USB, Uniform Sierra Bravo.
Yep.
Who is USB? So I did a little bit of, AI, Google, blah, blah, blah. And it suggested Army Corps of Engineers, which, wow, that is really interesting. So here's how, to me, if you decide to connect the dots in such a way, what this means is somebody was up there interested in meets and bounds. That's survey speak for who owns what. Where are the property lines? And if we're going to set a monument, that means this is where that property corner of township such and such and range such and such is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And it is filed, it is kept, it is logged, et cetera, et cetera. So I apologize if I'm taking too long.
No, please. This is good.
What's really, to me, and what remains really cool about this is somebody was up there in 63 determining meets and bounds with a high degree of accuracy and wanting to do it with enough authority to set a monument. Here is where the property corners are. Okay. So somebody, perhaps the federal government, perhaps the Department of Defense, aka Army Corps of Engineers, was up there setting meets and bounds.
Uh-huh.
Segue to the 1964 nickel.
Yep.
Segue, and this played really well in the episode, to why is there a blackout in publicly available aerial imagery from, what is it, 63 or to 69, whatever it was. I mean, that lines up pretty well.
It does.
If you decide to go down that rabbit hole, that wow, this is perhaps, somebody was up there establishing meets and bounds. Who owns what? And then within months, perhaps, there's an archaeological dig in which somebody leaves a coin dated 1964. And then, oh, by the way, whatever was going on up there is completely blacked out from a publicly available information point of view.
Right. The picture.
So
Yeah.
when I saw that monument, I got there in seconds to what I just described. I'm like, what? You know, who do you call? So anyway, that's why, to me, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Now, furthermore, and anyone who knows publicly accessible records can look up ALTA surveys going back. I found one from 1875 with the help of a friend of mine.
Wow.
That lists the township and range boundaries. They go back that far.
Wow.
Okay. So if anybody's interested, you can go dig into that, go nuts. I have, others have. And you can see that there are two monuments, I don't know, 50, 100 feet from each other.
97.41.
Ding! Yeah. I knew Mike would have this. I love you, brother. I love you, brother.
Oh boy, what do I got something for you, Pete?
Yeah, so I'm going to shut up because I can't wait to see what Detective Mike has found. But there are two monuments. One is from '63, which you've seen. The other, if memory serves, is from, help me, Mike, what year?
I think it was either 2001, maybe? The new one?
Yeah, I have a picture of it, but I can't share it. I'll dig it up. I'll look at it. And there's a big freaking difference between these two monuments.
Yes.
Okay. Big, huge busts like that laterally in surveying are really problematic because that means who owns what? Where is the actual property line? Are we going to go to court for the next 100 years, et cetera, et cetera? So I'll take a breath. Mike, over to you.
That could not have been any better of a tee up to what I found. So
bring it.
Obviously this is the marker, and I straightened it out a little bit. And so I did a little bit of looking, and I found a survey from 2014. And sure enough, first thing I did was match the codes here. You've got the T3S, and here's your T3S, R1E,
Township
and there's your
3
R1E.
South, Range 1 East. Yeah.
Here's that USB that it's got an and M on it. So we'll come back to that in a minute. But here is what there's that CC, and there's actually a C and a C right here, and it says 97.41 feet, and then it says true corner over here. So there's a lot of stuff to kind of figure out, and I was wanting to make sure that I was actually in the right place.
You are.
So the next thing I did was check the Uinta County plat map and make sure that we have the right section 4. That's the S4 right here, right? And there's the same TS3. There's the R1E. And this is from obviously 2013. So that's Bigelow era. I added the red just for my own sanity because there's a lot of lines and you can lose track. So the red is the Skinwalker Ranch property lines, or at least as best as I could lay them on there. So I knew that I was in the right location for what that should be. So with that, the next thing, if it will click, it's going to Skinwalker me. Come on.
I was hoping you were going to have something for the bird turd that looks like an R.
It does look like a R. Yeah.
Okay, so this is what the records had, and you already hit on it. Township 3 South is TS3, Range 1 East is R1E, and Uinta Special Base and Meridian. And so I had to look up some of that because I don't know what base and meridian. Baseline is the east-west reference lines, meridians are north-south, and then the township numbers and range numbers are calculated off of that. So that was some of the marking from this. Now the next part, which is what you already said too, I found some of the same stuff. So CC, what is that? Closed corner, and I got the definition there. Closed corner is a corner created when survey lines meet at an already established boundary. Now it did say specifically that it is not the legal definition. That's actually where the lines meet. The lines dictate where the corner is, not the marker itself. And then the true corner is what was found by the survey team. And I don't know that it was clear whether or not they put it there or somebody else put it there, but it was corrected. And the closed corner was off by 97.41 feet to the east and should have been here. And I'm assuming back in 63, they were doing it the old fashioned way and that an error of that much may or may not be acceptable for 63, but obviously nowadays that needs to be a little bit more accurate, especially when you got property lines that are being contested. So where are those on the map? Because this doesn't actually, it doesn't show me necessarily where in relation to the ranch this is. So got a satellite photo and the CC marker was roughly right about there. And the true corner marker was roughly right about here. And you can see triangle and mesa. And of course, there's our favorite neighbor sitting just north. And
yeah, right. Yeah.
I knew they were close. I didn't know they were that close. That is really close. If I measured that and it's like 25 feet, maybe 30 feet from the property line to there. I mean, they could not have parked that any closer and not had this sort of road that goes around the perimeter when they made that get any closer. I mean, that literally put it as close as they physically could get to the Skinwalker Ranch property.
Yeah,
So,
and the drill site and all of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, their center lines for all their drill holes line up within 100 feet off borehole 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, that's crazy.
That's all pretty close. So now here's where the fun begins is that survey that I found, that was commissioned by somebody. I mean, surveyors don't just go out and spend a bunch of time and money and create one of those for nothing. Somebody had to request that. So what was going on there? And see, now, Pete, this is where I would sit back and say, stay tuned till next time, Pete. That's a cliffhanger. That's how that feels, Pete. But I'm not going to do that to you. Okay. I'm going to show you what I found. Okay. Okay. So I took a page from Prometheus and I cropped out the important stuff. So the top half is what I've shown so far. This was the rest of the survey by Timberline in 2014, and it was a proposed well. And so this was the location of the well. We're still in section 4, and I'm looking at that going, well, surely that's not on the ranch. That's got to be for that. If you know on the satellite photo, there's that pivot irrigation crop circle that's just off of ranch to the southwest or west. Surely that was the well for that and not on the ranch. And I kind of zoomed in so you can kind of see what all it's talking about. And it's a proposed well, so it may not have gone in. This is Bigelow era, 2014. Still would have been 2 years left on his tour before Brandon took over. So where is that on the ranch?
We're about to see.
So this arrow right here.
Oh, let me see if I can get a different. Can you zoom in on that and then raise it up a little bit?
I can if I switch I'm gonna have to get
can
out of
just-
this.
Let me move us over a little bit so we can. Okay.
Hold on. I'm gonna switch to
All right.
a photo because that was still that was the end of my presentation this evening. Thank you for coming. Let me share screen again. Window. Okay, you can put that up now.
Yep.
Okay, so now I can zoom in, go for a little tour here.
Ah, there it is.
And it's just, I mean, I'm assuming those are Russian olives, right? It looks like a tree. I mean, I put the arrow, the point, the tip of the arrow as close as I could based on the GPS coordinates that popped up. And that's where, as far as I know, there's not a well there. I don't know why. Or
No,
if
there's not. I've
yeah.
surveyed all that.
So I don't know what the survey was for, but it did have the marker that we were talking about. Still doesn't explain who put it there, why it was done in 63. It seems like there was a lot of activity in 63 because we had the aerial photography that was, like Pete said, and then it kind of went radio silent for a number of years. It seems like a lot of activity in the area in that early 60s. And I know that there were things going on with the tribes nearby, the Ute tribe, and things getting divided up there too. But it seems like an awful lot of prep work for something, and I don't know what that is. I can't tell. But anyway, I'll zoom in here on this just for effect of just how close. I mean, here's a pickup truck. So you could park basically 2 pickup trucks from the edge of that pad to the property line. That's about as much space as you've got.
Yeah. Now, is that a true gas and oil well, or is it doing something else? Yeah, we don't know. We can guess, we can speculate, but that's not cool at all, quite honestly.
They've got about
unfortunate.
10 exploratory holes drilled there.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
10?
All in a line. Yeah, I didn't count them all up, but you can see them all in a row, and they're going to go different directions, so they might be coming under us.
Maybe they're drilling at an angle to get the oil under the ramp.
That's what they're going to do. They're not going to go side by side. They'll go all different directions.
Rightfully owned by Brandon Fugel.
Well done, Mike. Well done.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, for you, buddy.
But the issue remains. Somebody was up there in 63 trying to establish meets and bounds.
Yep.
It's the timing that just
it is.
What?
Yep.
Very curious.
Hey, if you like, I have a prop now that I think about it.
Okay.
Can you put the 63 monument up?
Yeah, absolutely.
You got that, Jeff? Yeah, there you go.
Now I got
see the little dimple right at the intersection of the 2 lines?
Yeah, right there.
That's where you put the pointy end of a survey pole to get a really accurate measurement. And here
let's go. Hold on. Let me
is a 2025 version of that. You see the little dimple between the alien's eyes?
Yeah, hold on a second. Let me see if I can put you in. Oh, here we go. There we go. Ah, yes, there it is.
That's a dimple. So anyway, I saw a similarity, and surveying goes back centuries. Some things don't change.
Yep. Now I wanted to ask Chris. Chris, you were the one that found that nickel, and then had mentioned that, and I'm going to let you explain this because you can do it so much better than I. How that might have been left behind by previous archaeologists.
Yeah. I would say the nickel is where I got skinwalkered, because the nickel should have come out of that mesa. So if I wanted to find something, I'd want to find artifacts I understand, and not a 1964 nickel coming out of there. Because at first it was like, whose pocket did it come out of?
Right.
But when you look at it close at the picture, you can see the patina on it. It had been sitting in there for quite a while. Now, again, that's we were talking about what on earth is that doing there. And previously we had talked about, they had brought up, rumors and legends of maybe an archaeological dig there. And so that is a practice you do. It's not written in the books like, hey, drop a coin in there, but it's something you do before you backfill your excavation unit.
Yep.
You throw a penny or a nickel or whatever in there that is the most recent year you could come up with, so that when archaeologists in the future dig there, they're going to see, right? It's not a paper trail they have to find. They dig to the bottom of the unit and they'll see that someone else was there at that year. That's kind of what that's for. So I just threw that out there. Again, they talked about an archaeological dig being kind of in the legends of Skinwalker Ranch. So that just came to mind. It could be a lot of different things. You know, there's the legend of it being a cave there. You know, and people maybe were in there in the 60s and maybe they were exploring and maybe they were pulling things out of whatever we're finding remnants of. It could be a lot of different things. But looking at the evidence, you know, that's one of the hypotheses that could be of how it got in there.
Yeah. So, yeah, Mike, thank you for sharing your research with us. Pete, I'm impressed that you keep the information on a survey marker to yourself for a whole season.
Yeah. Thanks, Pete.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, man. Thank you very much. I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Love television. I just love it.
Well-
And Michelle put up an interesting comment there
Yes.
just for a second
Mhm.
about, you know, property disputes. You know, going back, can you imagine 100-foot bust
Yeah.
discrepancy in where the actual property line is?
What if
Who
that
would
what if
care
that
about
pad was
that?
over 100 feet onto Skinwalker Ranch property
Yeah.
incorrectly? That would
Exactly.
talk about litigation. Oh my
Oh
God.
my gosh. Yeah.
Exactly. That would go back to the earliest survey I found, 1875.
Mhm.
You know, people spend, who would care? Any owner of the property, any. Bigelow, Brandon.
Yep.
I mean, 100 feet? Anyway.
Oops.
And it's tied to the Uinta Special Basin Meridian.
Yeah.
It gets into, no, we're not going to use the widely accepted coordinate-based system. We have our own.
Yeah. Right.
Just to make things, just to complicate
Complicated.
things. So, yeah.
I think they were
it's,
using that when they started dividing up the reservation into homesteading.
mm.
Right.
Well, great point. Can you imagine being the Utes going, we're involved in that property dispute as well. I mean, it just
Yeah.
snowballs. So,
Or I saw
Anyway.
Michelle had also brought up talking about the Bottle Hollow Reservoir that's up back that way and then to the north, and you know that have anything to do with the markings for that or something? Don't know. But you know what? You know, going back to what you had said, Pete, was the dates. You got three things now. You got the coin, you got the photographs, and you have this marker, the survey marker, all hinting at the same basic time frame going back that many years. Again, we talk about coincidence. I don't like coincidences. I don't believe in them. So, you know, is there something, you know, hidden going on here? Something that somebody has tried to keep secret going on here? It sure seems that way.
well, if you are going to invest in an archaeological dig,
Yeah.
right? First thing I think I would think about is, will this dig take place on my property?
Mhm.
And that's why this is kind of a big deal.
Right.
Is
Yep.
in 63, they're up there figuring out where the actual property line is.
And then it
And
goes
then
dark.
64, at 64, there's, you know, somebody puts a nickel, you know, into a unit, a dig. Hey, that's, you know, that's compelling.
Yeah, it is. It really is. So hopefully, yeah, more on this. I mean, that was where we got left with that cliffhanger from you, and then the explanation that really wasn't truly an explanation. But yeah, this is really this is just the three things added together are just crazy. All right, David, let's jump over to you again for a minute. I don't want you to fall asleep in there. Listening to all this other stuff.
Very interesting. I'm really intrigued with.
I am too. I really am. This is really cool.
Tremendous amount of work in researching this, and I really appreciate it because I know it was hours and hours chasing this down, and very impressive.
It truly is. And for, and I think that you figured out, I think Pete had said that the marker was 100 meters or so from the drill site. On the show,
something like that.
Yeah,
it's close. You could throw a rock.
Yeah,
very close.
It really gives broader implications as to what was going on at that time frame. And I think it's a tremendous find.
Yep, absolutely. David, let me ask you this question. Did you ever think that you would be tracking UAPs when you first got asked to come out to Skinwalker Ranch with your differential FLIR?
I was expecting that could happen. And
oh, really? Okay.
I mean, I knew I had, actually at the time, I had only prototyped it, and then so it was in the following episodes of that season where I had then brought the cameras out. But on the first experiment at the ranch, I only had conventional FLIR running at that time.
Right.
And then I think it was the following, the second episode I worked on, then I had brought out the differential FLIR for the first time, and was really surprised at how well it was working.
It's phenomenal. It really is. And I know we had a special podcast with you, and you went through and explained a lot of that kind of stuff. And I really appreciate that for so much. If anybody wants to get a little more info, go back, look at the archives on my YouTube channel, and you'll find the episode we did with David, and he explained all this so very well. I wanted to, first of all, let me show a couple of pictures that from what we showed one already. There was also another one that you had shown, and it was a gradual increase. This is looking at that. I'm assuming, let me bring this picture up here. Oh, we can't see it very good on that one. Hang on. Let me try this view here. There we go. Right. I'm assuming that darker line we see is the top of the mesa, right? The ridge of the mesa. Is that what that is?
Differential FLIR.
Yeah. And then you got this hot spot showing up there. What exactly, is that another case of like the rocks heating up? Like when Mason
right at the very top, it looked kind of similar to the previous rocks heating up, but it's another mystery on the mesa where the landscape itself is changing heat. And this isn't like an artifact of my technology or anything. This is something that the camera can detect. That is definitely something that doesn't have a prosaic explanation. I mean, it's not where suddenly a rock in one corner just decided to, or a spread of the mesa, because that looks like that's probably about a 15-foot to 20-foot wide spread, given the scale of what I'm seeing. That's just heating up, and for no real known reason, and just kind of a focused energy. I will interject that in using my differential FLIR, I've also been experimenting with it in volcanology and looking at mountains that are, say, inactive volcanoes, and I'm finding heat anomalies. Nothing to that magnitude, but at least on the surface of mountains, on Mount Rainier and Mount Baker. So it's got a lot of other scientific applications, but this that particular event is very strange. I mean, for the magnitude of difference in temperature, and I don't have the original data from that recording of that hot spot on the mesa, because I recorded it, and then production took the recording, so I couldn't give you an accurate answer as to the length of how long that temperature existed and then when it was gone, because they had all the footage. And from that evening, I was running one conventional FLIR cameras and 3 differential FLIR. And one differential FLIR had a variable timer on it, so I could change its resample rates from 6 seconds to up to 15 minutes. Most of them, I leave them on a long time constant because we're just looking for what's changing after an environmental sample.
Yeah, that's and I'm so when you explained that technology to us last time, It was fascinating, truly fascinating, and how you've, whenever they show your picture here, I think I've got a thing here. Let me bring this up real quick. They say David Mason, technologist. That's what they say for Pete, technologist, inventor. I'm thinking that doesn't even come close to meeting the mark. How about a FLIR expert?
It works for me. I wouldn't mind if they just said David Mason, some guy on the show.
This cool guy on the show who gets to come out and play with his toys. No, this is great stuff. It really, truly is. And this one here, this was earlier in the season, and this was I'm thinking this is a cold spot, correct? Is that a cold spot?
Now this is above the mesa where we have. It almost looks like it's in the similar region of. It just looked like the topology of the landscape looked very similar to that previous one with the heat. And I don't recall if there were clouds present, and then that's where I was trying to understand. When you have the background sky, it's a very cold sky, and this is differential FLIR, and so that if there's anything changing, it's as if something got colder in the sky. And what did that? I don't know, but because a cloud's going to be warm. This is like something that's colder than the background sky, or something that voided the relative humidity above the mesa, just that region of it. It's this tech that I've got is, it opens up the world in thermography, but it then starts to reveal things that just make us ask more questions than getting answers. But yeah, the mystery just gets deeper as we start to use these new kinds of technologies.
Yeah, I tell you, and this here, I'm going to bring up another one here too. And this one here is the one that kind of, this next picture I'm going to show here kind of blew me away. First we were watching Jim Royston trying to fly his drone. This was on a couple episodes ago, trying to fly his drone over a particular point over the triangle. And you could see where it was being pushed.
Mm-hmm.
Every time he tried to fly over there, it was getting pushed back.
Yeah, that was.
And then we get your FLIR showing this right-hand circle here, folks, is the drone that Jim Royston is flying. And this is something else showing up on the FLIR.
Yeah.
And you guys watched this move, did you not?
Yes. And I recall when I don't know if I was the person who actually saw it initially on the screen. It was either Jim or Brandon. Yeah. But I saw the object and I saw it was elongated. And while it was being monitored, I was trying to navigate the camera to track the helicopter, and I was just distracted with that, and I was worried about Pete, hanging off the helicopter. I mean, he must still be 16 years old or something, because I wouldn't have done that. I'd do it when I was 16, but not at my age. I was getting scared just watching him do that stuff. But there was just a lot of, craziness of that moment, because we had the drone getting kicked around, and Jim was trying to navigate it, and it kept on getting jostled. And here I see this object appearing, and it kind of forms a shape, and it's a very distinct shape. It looks like a elongated cylinder or egg shape. And then as it moves, it just kind of shrinks and disappears. It's like it goes into a wall. If you ever watch the video, it just kind of like goes into absorption, just dissolves or disappears. Yeah, but it seemed to be getting close to Jim's drone, and we had the FLIR cameras stationed on top of the ark next to the helicopter pad, mm-hmm. And it was just an extraordinary thing to see. And I can remember when I got back to my hotel, I was just, laying in the bed going, did we really record what I thought we recorded? Did this really happen? I mean, it was just crazy what we were seeing.
Yeah.
And Pete, you missed. I was asking you if you were still 16 years old because you were hanging off that helicopter, and I didn't. You know, I could do it at 16, but I couldn't do it at my age. You were a very brave man, you know, for doing.
No, I'm mentally and emotionally 15 years old. You nailed it.
Yeah, you just, you know, we had everybody nervous. I was even getting nervous when we were when I was picking up all these objects around the helicopter, whether, you know, what if it got stuck in one of the blades or something like that, or
Yeah.
you know, just there were some concerns about the multitudes of these things showing up on the FLIR.
Well,
Yeah.
it was well called, you know, land that thing, because
Yeah, it was. I remember it was kind of making a different sound, or a wispy sound. Something mechanically didn't sound quite right, and Jim and Brandon also noted that, and they said, "You guys need to come down."
Yeah. I'm glad they did, honestly, because when you've got something that you can clearly see, and this shot here, and there was many of them, I had a little video clip that I was showing of this, but you know, showing this little dot you see up in the upper, you know, section of this screenshot here is the I'm going to just simply say it's a UAP because we don't know exactly what it was, but this UAP is up there flying around while the helicopter is flying around. And like you said, you know, and even Cameron said, there's something else in the airspace. Now he's flying around up there with the absolute assumption that there is nothing else in his airspace that needs to be concerned about. And then you guys give the report over the radio that there is something up there flying around in his airspace.
Mhm.
And you could see the concern on his face. And you heard, I think it was Pete that went, wow, or something like that. But that's a scary moment.
Yeah, and I believe Cameron saw some stuff in his night vision, and when
Yes.
flying the cover, he saw some objects. So some of these objects were actually visible to just infrared night vision, and not just in long wave infrared clear.
And
Can I-
forgive
can I
me,
ask-
I got up and stepped away for a second. Maybe this has already been discussed, but in a previous image from Dave's data, one of the anomalies, the UAPs was, dare I say, remarkably similar to what Cameron and I called out during the daylight.
Yeah,
Ooh, look at that.
there we go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was the one on the ground, and we talked about this the other night when we had you on in that particular episode, but this is only 3 here. There was actually 4 pictures of this object. Now, it was seen with the eye, it was seen with the differential FLIR, it was seen with a camera, and it was seen with Doppler radar, all seeing this same type of elongated UAP flying around the ranch. And I know that when Cameron described it, when you were on the ground and he described this cylinder, or, you know, and he talked about how it was tumbling, rotating, but tumbling kind of action. And now we had 4 different means we're seeing the same thing, folks.
Yeah, you get confirmation. I want to also point out that I aimed the conventional FLIR camera in the direction of the drone, and all I saw was the drone. It did not detect.
Really?
It did not detect that UAP or UFO. It was just the drone. The
Wow.
differential FLIR detected it.
Wow.
That's what was reported, because I had 4 cameras running, but the conventional FLIR was the one I was actually aiming at the helicopter. You know, that was what I was pointing around. And I believe that video is from the conventional FLIR, although I had a conventional and a differential on the same tripod,
Right.
and they
Yeah,
were
there was
paired
2.
together, and I was guiding 2 of them together. I like to run them in pairs like that because it gives you, you know, it gives you baselines of if someone says, oh, it's a camera artifact. Well, if it's picked up in 2 cameras, then it is.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's a perfect way to approach that for sure.
It does seem like you almost need every visible, you know, thermal, infrared. You got to almost have every kind of camera and every spectrum covered, because you never know which one it's actually going to present itself in, because it may not present itself in all of them.
Correct.
Especially visible. I mean, that's about the narrowest, right?
Yeah.
Well, the
There's
human
been
eye.
many times I've seen UAPs in the sky where I couldn't see them with my eyes. I couldn't see them with Gen 3 night vision, PVS 7Ds, but I could only see it with the FLIR. And, that, in fact, my first experience happened in 2005 where I took a $70,000 camera from my test lab, took it home. I thought, I'm just going to record some conventional aircraft flying over my property. I just thought it would look cool. And it was an afternoon, and I looked in my monitor, and here's this V-shaped and this boomerang-shaped object moving slowly across it. We're very cold in temperature, and I looked up. There was nothing in the sky, nothing. Wow. And I uttered the acronym WTF, and I started recording. And I recorded these objects, and that forever changed my life, because I knew there was something going on above us that we could not see.
Wow.
So I do have a question for Ben, because this did come up, and Cameron even said it in the episode at the time. It was the nighttime. They were flying the helicopter at night. He had the night vision goggles on, and they were seeing stuff flying around. Objects were coming around the helicopter. The comment was, well, you're sure they're not birds at night at altitude around a helicopter? Are those birds, Ben?
No, they would pick up. So there's night hawks, which are not hawks. They're in the whippoorwill family, the nightjar family. There are those that do hunt at night and they echolocate. You also have bats, and occasionally we have seen on the ranch after dark ducks that come flying through. But these are not species that are going to be zipping around. Night hawks, they have to make a sound. Just kind of like bats, they echolocate to find bugs, and the disruption of a helicopter, that's something that's going to terrify them. It's like yelling. They can't hear, they can't see, and that's going to drive them away. So, yeah, I wasn't there to see it, but there's the very tumultuousness of disruption of sound waves by the helicopter rotors that would drive away even the potential of there being night hawks. So there shouldn't be any birds that would be like, hey, yeah, I'm going to go fly around and buzz a helicopter. That would drive them away, and the airflow would also push them away.
The objects kind of reminded me of the Foo Fighters that were photographed back in the 1940s, about our fighter pilots that described these balls following the aircraft. And there's some actual photographs from that time. And this may have just been one of those events.
Yeah, it's very true. Matter of fact, I have a little clip of that. If you don't mind, I'll show that real quick here.
And also to point out the velocity of the helicopter and whatever craft that was around it, it was keeping pace with it.
Yeah, this is the where they saw the object. He said, "I see something. You see that? Something just flew by the helicopter a second ago." Under the right
look
side.
How the landscape and the terrain is behind him, so you can see there's an appreciable velocity of the helicopter.
Whatever it was, it's not a bird. Because that was what Cameron had said. Well, there are some birds that do fly around at night, and this guy's like, no, that's not a bird. That's definitely not a bird.
Yeah,
so
birds and night vision goggles, which are light sensitive.
Yeah.
That doesn't add up.
Yeah, that was pretty nuts, for sure. And there's this was Pete here. You're in up there in the helicopter shining this laser pointer, a really nice one, down at the screen there.
Look how steady his hand is on that.
I know.
Isn't that crazy?
If I was
Pete.
there, or if I was doing that thing would be bouncing around hundreds of yards. I couldn't keep that steady.
I know. That's really crazy that he was able to keep that. And here's the you can see him actually shining it there. But yeah, there's the video right there showing that motion underneath the there's something flying around up there. And it's you guys see he saw it.
We had things above it and below it. And things that were keeping pace with it. That was the other thing. Not everything was shown in the cut footage of this experiment. but I just remember the excitement when all this stuff was just going down, and I couldn't believe how much of it was happening, because we do have times at the ranch where we don't get much of anything or even nothing, and then that never gets shown to anybody, because people don't realize, less than 1% of all the footage that you see in a production is actually used as a production. And
Right.
experiments that actually yield results don't always get shown, or certainly get edited to something that's palatable for the general audience and things.
Yeah. We know that so much is left out that we don't get. And unfortunately, that leaves you guys in a little bit of a predicament, because you're under your NDA, you're not allowed to talk about it unless it's aired. Okay. Well, if it hasn't aired, it might air next year, or it might, and so you don't know when it's going to come out. So you got to stay not talking about certain, markers you find up on the mesa with, stamps on the cap, and things like that. You just can't talk because you never know when it's going to come back out. But
Right.
It's unfortunate. And, somebody had made a comment earlier about the science that, somebody had said in the chat here, and I forget where it was, back quite a ways, that they talked about the fact that, Prometheus thinks that people aren't really interested in all this science. Oh, I differ with you on that. You've got a lot of people in here that are interested in the science and the archaeology and the biology that's going on this ranch. And it all seems to play together to the same thing. And I'm going to go to Ben, on this, go back to you for a second, Ben. You have documented different animals, dead and alive, on the ranch. Now I'm going to speak on the bodies of the dead ones for just a moment, because I think you have talked about how these animals don't decay the way they're supposed to, and also they don't. Other animals don't and go and eat the carcass the way they kind of normally would. Is that a fair assumption on what you said? What you have found?
Yeah. So we're trying to dial in what are the rules of the ranch, and I don't think any of us have them fully dialed in, but it's kind of like a reductive process, kind of like algebra. Here's the question, and you reduce it down to this, and it's still a question. And so we seem to see a consistent pattern that anything coyote to maybe the size of a deer down does not follow the laws of taphonomy, of normal decomposition. Right. They'll kind of be in a state of suspended, decay. Internal bacteria, external bacteria, nothing happens. Flies, leave them alone. External scavengers, leave them alone. The bigger things, elk and cattle, things like that, they do decompose, but there's still some strange anomalies. We don't have that fully dialed into what it is, but the longest thing we documented was a skunk that looked perfect for 3 years. That's the longest one.
Wow, that's crazy. And that doesn't make good sense, because things normally, if something dies, other animals are going to clean it up.
Immediately starts to break down. Yeah. And that's actually, again, that's more anomalous and crazy into my way of thinking, again, than if a UFO landed and an alien got out and said hi. I can wrap my head around that. No laws were broken, But if you're like, hey, it's like they're frozen in time. They don't stink. Rigor mortis never sets in.
That's
so
crazy.
At the microscopic level, the macroscopic level.
Uh-oh. We lost him. Let's see if he comes back. He got skinwalkered. So what that was, we were looking at a couple of different things. Now I was going to ask him about and we will when he gets back, but I first saw him come on the ranch when they had, I think it was Candace. Oh, there he is.
Go through?
Yeah, no, we lost you there.
You're back.
Yeah, you're back now.
I'm going to try to sign that off.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Had a phone call that was trying to come through.
Oh, okay. Well, one of the things I was going to mention, you were talking about rigor mortis not setting in the way it's supposed to and that sort of thing. And I remember going back and seeing, when you first, at least my recollection of you first coming on the ranch was when Tom and Candace had those two birds that were dead, and you came out and examined them out in the field, and then you took them back to the lab. I think those were not behaving the way dead carcasses should either, right?
Yeah, and then once there was actually two more birds that I won't mention that we didn't record on the show because of certain laws. We thought, well, the government, if they're looking for a reason to jab certain birds, certain laws under the Migratory Bird Treaty Act. So there's other birds as well that had an almost decomposition. But yeah, one of them was a starling, and it wouldn't decompose. It stayed squishy. We took it off the ranch. It still stayed squishy and still wouldn't stink. But the brain case, which had exploded outward energetically before we found it, that it started to decompose once it left the ranch. That was strange. But yeah, we had everybody. I'm like, look, this thing's still squishy, and I'm like, go ahead, hold it up. And Brian didn't want to. He was like, no. I'm like, smell it. He's like, no, it doesn't stink. I'm like, yeah, this is months old now, and it doesn't stink, and it's still soft and pliable and squishy. So. But the brain case did start to break down, and these weird, I got a couple pictures of these weird bubbles that looked like liquid metal started to bubble up, and I would go to get them with tweezers, and they pop, and they disappear with no residue, and they kept doing this, and I'm like, nobody's going to believe it, so I snapped a few pictures and got them, but they were just like these weird kind of metallic bubbles that would in the exploded out brain case, and they would just kind of and then pop and disappear with no residue. Strange.
Yeah. And what would cause that? I mean, we don't know, right? I mean,
yeah. I got nothing on that. Like anything organic that would off gas in any way, I have no suggestion of what even that would be. But if it was something, it would leave a residue because it had a viscosity. It was kind of sticky. It looked like the La Brea tar pits bubbling up, like, but more metallic. Whatever it is, it should leave a residue. There's nothing.
Yeah, that doesn't make good sense. And one question also, I besides the fact that you really like to get into this like that, I mean, who else would? I don't know, but we need people like you to do that, to examine these types of things, to come up with all this. There was also, and I've heard you talk about this before, and I'm hoping that it's okay. I think it was publicly you spoke about this, the Falcon experiment.
Yeah.
You did some sort of a Falcon experiment. Can you talk about that at all?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
So we've brought a lot of birds of prey on the ranch. I brought on many species of owls, and they will track things visually that we can't hear. They see in spectrums we don't see, and they hear three-dimensionally. It's a whole long story how that works. And that's got filmed. That never ended up on the show. And we brought some falcons on, and we went and flew them. And we flew them on different sections, and they had radio transmitters on and 3D GPS transmitters on. And they kept getting disrupted. And the GPS, when you just be standing there holding the bird, it said that you and the bird were jumping up like hundreds of feet in the air, like Spock in fast motion, going all over the place. And when the bird flew through the triangle, the radio transmitter would flare up, do a big old feedback. And then we did that a few times, and then we went over to the east field, flew the bird. The bird was doing great. We went to call it down, and something near the ground was picking something up. It would freak out, and it would get back up and try to call back down. It would keep freaking out. Finally, it gave up, and it started circling up and went a little over 1,000 feet, and the GPS started to blip out. It would be like beep, 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 nothing. And this is all 3D. We have it all. It's all overlaid. And then the bird disappeared and immediately reappeared over the triangle. And we went after it. Disappeared off camera. And when it reappeared, the radio transmitter was working exactly where we could see the bird. Transmitter was going correct. The GPS was not correct in its position, but the movement, it was mirroring the movement of the bird. And according to the 3D GPS, the falcon went through the mesa, which should be impossible. And when we've gone back over the footage, where it seemed, or according to the GPS, where it went in and out of the mesa is the same place where earlier they at night saw a white orb go into the mesa over the east field, and from Brandon's helicopter right at sunset where you see that white thing come
Yes.
out of the mesa.
Yes.
Those are the same spots where that happened.
Oh my gosh.
So they filmed it all, and then they didn't end up putting in that season. They were going to put in the next season and say it would happen, but there were several people in the shots that weren't on the show anymore, and they said, well, we can't do it now. And I'm like, but you had a bird disappear.
Yeah, exactly.
And it seemed to go through a portal. That's impossible. And I had to sit on that for years. Was that?
A bird this big.
Yep. Flying through and just going. And so I had to sit on it for years. And finally one day we were doing a live stream and I was talking to Brandon. I'm like, Brandon, can I please get this information out at least, so at least people know of it? And he said, "Yep, let's do it. Let's jump on this." And so now it's out there.
Yeah, thank goodness he did too, because this is crazy. I mean, we've got drones. Pete's had his drones flying around. Jim Royston's had his drones flying around. Production has had their drones flying around, and every one of them has had issues. Now you have a live animal that
the bird's fine.
Through the mesa. Yeah,
the bird's totally fine.
The bird is fine.
Which is kind of like what just happened.
He might have been a little dusty from going through the mesa, but yeah. Wow. E.T. Jackson asked a question. Ben, can you mention strange? Let's see.
Strange animals, I think it's supposed to be.
Maybe extinct. Yeah. Spotted on Skinwalker Ranch, or give us a teaser of your upcoming Phenomicon presentation. Thanks, E.T.
So I'm trying to, there's a lot of, I'll just say, species that either don't exist in any way, shape, or form, or shouldn't have existed since the Ice Age that we have caught on camera or on footage. And I'm trying to get permission to share all of that.
Wow.
And some of it's small, some of it's big.
On ranch or off ranch?
What's that?
On ranch or off ranch? On ranch. Oh,
on ranch. God. There's also one just off ranch, but we might also include. I'm still going to be talking about that one, but we've got some kind of crazy experiments we're going to try to do, some potentially dangerous to me and Caleb, but we're gonna try to lure some things in with some special techniques. So because Travis always says, poke the hornet's nest.
Yep.
So much of what we've been doing is just observing, and it's like, well, let's actually try to bring some of this in, that we keep seeing tracks and scat with DNA from certain things. It's like, okay, how are they avoiding the main cameras most of the time? Well, let's try to get them out. So we got some things lined up to do that. For Phenomicon, some of the information is going to be the same, because I think it's really important that people have that information and can discuss it. But I don't want to repeat everything also, so I'm going to try to have a lot of good news stuff as well. Have a good base.
I can't wait. I'm going to be there. I can't wait to sit in on your presentations.
Oh, it's going to be fun.
Yes, it will be. Mike, did you want to ask about a particular animal?
Yeah. So one more animal, and I know that this one's been talked about, not on the show though, but it kind of speaks to the oddities that seem to go on around that area. Let's talk about a black jaguar.
We absolutely have one on film. 100% have it on film.
And they're not native to Utah, right? They shouldn't.
Nope.
They don't normally go that far north.
Jaguars here during the Ice Age. So that's a recent extinction. So that's way too far for it to have ranged up north. I have friends who train big cats and train bears and wolves and things like that, and they've all assured me that if a big cat like that got away, it would be looking around to people for food, like a big, giant, dangerous cat. It wouldn't be like, okay, I'm free, I'm going to go hunt now. It would be, people would see it. But yeah, without question, 100%. So is that an Ice Age jaguar that came out of a portal? Is that somehow modern Jaguar, and what's it doing there? If it is, how could that be? But also on the ranch and a couple miles off the ranch, both. So we will share a lot more about that. But yep, I don't know why the news hasn't picked that up, because that has made it out in the public domain. You'd think they'd pick that up. You'd think the sensationalism of the news will be like, oh, everybody freak out. But
yeah,
hasn't gotten picked up.
I'm learning this now. I'm freaking out.
Yeah. You just finding out about it. Wasn't it Chris that had some tracks? Chris Battelle that had some tracks that he spotted up on the mesa.
Chris Bartell has, and the current security staff, they regularly are still sending me. I've gotten a lot of giant feline tracks on the ranch and some big canine tracks, but they are regularly and routinely sending me photos of giant canines, bigger than a gray wolf, and giant felines, bigger than a modern cougar, modern mountain lion. So still regularly today, like as in last week. So
wow,
giant.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And that, folks, we've said this before, and we've talked about how the high strangeness of this area is not confined to the fence around the ranch. It's this whole area. So, when he talks about outside of the area, yes, it's very possible that things like, animals especially are not going to be, confined by a fence like that. So they're going to be outside of that area. But
it's like the epicenter is the ranch. And it's
exactly.
It falls down to it. Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
I actually need to run. I've got a board meeting in the other room. I got to run off to. I would love to be back again with you guys. So, thank you all for having me. And as Pete Kelsey always says, stay tuned.
Yes, he does that too much.
He does way too much.
Thank you, Ben. Man, it's been awesome having you on.
Have a great night.
Yep, you too. Thank you.
There's a huge extinct black jaguar on the ranch. Gotta go.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That was found just a few miles away. It was a video from a couple years ago, but it's actually right in Roosevelt City.
Wow.
Is the location it was at. It's pretty remarkable video.
Yeah.
To look at. It's very slinky. It's in daylight. It's not from very far away. It is a jaguar.
Shiny coat.
It's just, you can just see it's a cat. It's a big cat.
A big cat with a long tail.
It's a wolverine. It's not a bear.
Wow.
It's not a coyote. It's not a wolf. It's a cat.
And
was showing everybody that on the cruise, actually. So Pete, I'm surprised you didn't see it, but most of the guests on the cruise got to see that.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got sick.
You did.
Oh yeah.
God. What?
Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
It had good reference in it. You could tell how big it was. There was like a shipping container in the foreground, and it wasn't one of those where they zoomed in super tight and it was just blurry, and it was from a distance, but you could tell it was a large cat. This was no house cat. And you could see the shine off the coat as it turned and moved. So that is a jaguar, and Pete, I think their bite strength is one of the top in the feline animals. So
good stuff.
Mike, you just keep winning points. Yeah.
Tell us more.
Great. If folks are going to think I'm kidding,
And I've heard of recent stories. This is not in the Uinta Basin. This is south of us, but down in Oklahoma and Arizona and places that they have been seen. But it's further south than us, so it's out of their area, but multiple sightings down in those areas.
You're easy bait, Pete. Jan, you're pretty fortunate though. Usually when you're out doing something, on the ranch, you got Caleb, and he's always packing heat. So
he is packing a lot of heat.
Yeah. He's a much larger target too.
Yeah. Indeed, I can run faster than he can. So
that's all you need.
Run, yeah. I don't have to beat this. I don't have to outrun it. Just you. Yeah,
exactly.
And you always work in daylight. You lucky
Well, I got to see my screen, and it's a safety thing. I need to be in bed. I mean, you guys go on till 4 a.m. sometimes.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
crazy.
Okay. I'm composing an email to Brandon in my head. Okay.
Go
Dire
ahead,
wolves,
try that.
jaguars.
Yeah.
Anything else I need to know about?
None that we can tell you.
NDA, sorry, man.
Yeah.
NDAs. Sorry, I can't even tell you.
I need a better legal firm and a better
That's it.
insurance company.
Yeah. Wow. Hey, speaking of, Chris, you popped in there a little bit. I'm glad. I had a couple more things that I wanted to kind of talk to you about. Here is you and Caleb, packing his heat there, of course, looking at the screen process going on. But it's this right here that I'm kind of curious about. I'm assuming that those are not graves, that those are spoil piles.
They're going to be graves of people on the production company if they keep making me do this. Those are levels. Those are spoils that came out of the cores that we did. That everybody's seen the 4 different cores we've done.
Yep.
Those are basically the spoils of those that got processed and screened. You can see some of the piles as we went deeper. You can see some you have core samples where you can see the chunks of
right
sandstone.
Yep.
Those are cores that came out, and then once we got so deep, they started pulverizing, or they were soil, depending on what the level was. But that is the spoils that had to be processed.
So you've already processed these already.
Yeah, those ones are from core 2, and this is prior to core. You can see it set up on core 3 right now, and there's just a couple of piles behind the actual drill.
Oh yeah, you see
and they scoop it up and they take it to the back, and we process those. And what you saw with Caleb and myself was processing that. It was pretty fun to have all the guys kind of working at the screen and doing things. That's the dry screen, and then next to it you can see the buckets, and that's the wet screen. So we had to set up water up there in order to get the artifacts. You can do a dry screen to reduce it, and then you do a wet screen to clean everything so you can actually see the rocks and look for artifacts in there. So it's a process, and then you've got to dry it, and then you actually sort it. So it's a multi-stage process in order to find anything out there at all. But that's what you've got there is an overview when we were on core 3.
Wow.
So which is directly over borehole 2.
Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah.
And if you went to core, let's see, core 2 would be in the bottom to the right of the screen where you see the blue tarp, to the right.
Oh,
okay. If I'm saying the right. Yeah, over in that area.
Yep.
That is where you'd have core 2. Back in that area, and then you actually further. I guess it's actually just a little bit out of the shot.
Yeah.
Out of the shot down in there would be core 2, where we went to 90 feet, and it was negative for artifacts.
Yeah. Oh wow, nothing at all.
Core 1 and core 3 were positive for artifacts, which you saw both metals that came out of those cores. With the one that came out of core 1 being quite a small fragment, very layered with its own accretions built into it. It's a very interesting piece of metal that they showed on the show, but it's a very quick shot at that. And then the other one that came out of that is from core 3 right there.
Yeah.
And that stuff's actually metal, and it's flexible.
Oh wow.
Which they didn't even cover it. When I actually held up the magnet to it, it moved. The stuff flexed. So it's almost like a foil. But it's not a foil, and it has a ferrous side and a non-ferrous side to it, just like all the other metal that came out.
Wow.
But that is ultra thin. So I think that's one layer that was part of other layers, and that was what came out of a targeted area out of core hole 3, where I imagined most things would have come out of.
Wow.
That area. At least that's where I have the most assurance. When we started seeing artifacts out of borehole 2, they started coming out at 260 feet in, and everything else came out deeper but we can't say exactly where they came in when you start talking about provenience, right? Because you might be just pulling things out of the sidewalls of the bore. But our first positive was 260 feet in, which was basically right underneath core 3.
Wow.
So
Now,
a lot of what we did, which they don't go into, was kind of like sticking pins, like a biopsy, sticking pins in. Where are we getting a positive? Where are we getting a negative?
right.
And coming away with, well, this is where the artifacts are coming from. This is our target. These are our areas that we need to target. And there's a correlation, which I did in the final meeting, but they didn't show it. But they're not going to show it because we already did that final meeting. But there's a correlation with all the data, with every bit of data that you have from the cave locations, the GPR data, Omnitech data, and the artifact data. They all correlate to very, very similar areas so we can target this year's activities.
Wow. That's awesome. I'm so glad to hear that. I really am. Because this is a major undertaking. I mean, obviously they had so much trouble just trying to get at the boreholes. They were originally coming in from the bottom, trying to come up, and they finally got one through. That was painstaking. And then they had the guy that was up there. He was one of the security guys. He was up there running that small drill for a while. He was actually literally hanging on it, had a motor on top, and then he got nowhere with that thing.
There was no way he was going to get through that. So we went through layers of that different sandstone and siltstone, and there's one layer in there that's about 24 feet down, I think, in core 1, and it was like cement. It was hard as can be. I worked on chipping it apart once we got it, and I mean that thing is just solid and heavier than everything else. So there's a layer down there that's really, really strong. Interesting is that the core 1, so we did the sorting afterwards, right? We got through it and I took samples of each one. That's where that metal piece came from. Well underneath a lot of bedrock.
Yeah.
That did not have a cave all the way back there. It's very interesting that anything came out of that hole at all, because I did not expect to find a thing. Just like I didn't expect to find a nickel or any ceramic like material.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know where that metal came from, but it did come from way down in there.
Yeah.
So that's what we put under the SEM in that when we were out at UVU.
Yeah,
look at that, and that's when the machine went down.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to bring up next. I wanted to get to Grover's Warriors question there. Do you all keep the spoils separate after processing it in the case you decide to want to go back and test something else at a specific level?
Yes. I keep everything separate, everything cleaned, everything has a provenience. And a lot of times when you're doing a normal excavation, you're pulling all the artifacts out and then you're using it as back dirt. You're filling your hole back in. But for us, everything that we pulled out of the bore, we're keeping that because what if there is something more we need to look at? Because I did look at every single level out of the bores. Once we pulled something out and I was like, wait a minute, there's something here.
Yeah.
This isn't just, to process it, just in case. I went back through every level looking for more, looking for even smaller pieces. And that's where I found the type 2. That's where that came from, because I decided I had to look at not just, okay, it's sandstone. Okay, it's sandstone. It's not an artifact that's known. This is where we're going from known artifacts to the unknown artifacts when we find material that shouldn't be in there. Like this basically technologically advanced material should not be in the mesa. It should be, if anything, prehistoric, that I know those artifacts, but we're dealing with stuff that is unknown. Basically, this is xenoarchaeology, right? We're dealing with stuff that's unknown, possibly out of place things, but you don't want to say that because that's got a certain stigma about out of place artifacts. But that's what this stuff is. It doesn't fit the geology. It doesn't fit the stratigraphy. It's coming from somewhere that shouldn't be.
Right.
And that's what we're dealing with at Skinwalker Ranch. And so we have to look at everything that comes out, and then we have to save it, because what if we have to look at it again? Right. And so everything is saved. I've got boxes, I've got buckets, I've got bags of artifacts sorted, how many times it's been sorted, an inventory list, all of that is taken care of, just in case there's something else that we might have missed. Right. And when you look at it at that level, when we're dealing with something that we might not understand, what if when we get into the mesa, what if something in situ reacts differently than when it's out of place, when you've rinsed it off, when you've cleaned it, when you've got that. And so we might find something in place once we get in the mesa that's
Right.
different outside of it. So we have to have all of that to go back to. So
Yeah.
everything is saved and nothing is tossed away.
Well, yeah, and you got to keep those holes open because Jan's got to continue putting his
Well,
stuff.
that
down
too.
there.
Yeah. We wouldn't put the stuff back in the boreholes. This is different. I mean, this is like salvage archaeology. It's not like cutting, you have a square hole and you're digging straight down in a unit. That's generally what you do. This is very
Right.
different when you're processing. No one does this. Nobody digs through bedrock and has an archaeologist looking for anything. You don't, because there's nothing there.
Right.
You're
There's no
basing it
metal.
on history of how this stuff should be. And unless you do have a cave underneath there, you shouldn't even have somebody like me looking at the residue.
Right.
But that's why we're finding things, because we're taking that extra step, because they were willing, because Shook went, hey, you know what? Maybe you should look at this stuff a little bit closer. And that's where this came from. His bright idea.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, Bagel brought up something too about the green goo just now. And I've forgotten all about that. The green goo. Oh my God.
Yeah, the green jelly. It came out. It's got bio stuff in it. It's not something an archaeologist looks for. We don't look for goo. We don't look for jelly.
Yeah.
We look for hard artifacts that resist time. But yeah, that stuff is very interesting, and it's saved and put away for further analysis for when they decide to do something with it.
Oh
Is
my
this
gosh.
part of Utah, just this region specifically? Is it prone to caverns, caves, underground rivers, anything like that?
No, in the Uinta Mountains, you'll have water caves. Basically,
Sure.
they do cut through, but they stop down here in where we're at, down in the bottom of the basin. Basically, there's not a lot of caves, and so if there is one there, geologically, it should be very shallow. It shouldn't go back very far. It would probably go across the face, and then it would have had boulders that fell over it, and then over time it just filled in if there was a cave there. However, if we're finding, because if you remember the heavy metal we pulled out, right? So we pulled out multiple types of metal.
Yep.
And this latest one out of core one, that is more of a heavy metal, layered heavy metal. We have the really heavy shrapnel piece, about that big,
Yeah.
that came out during season 7 out of the clean out of borehole 1. That thing jumped across the screen to the magnet. I mean, that's iron and aluminum. It was a big piece, shocking to find come out of there, not part of anything. We examined everything. It didn't come from the hardware we were using to get in there at all. That is a really interesting piece. But if you have something in there that is a foreign object inside the mesa, it shouldn't be there. Geology and the earth and over time is going to kind of almost shake it out of there, right? And you could have a cavern around it or near it that maybe that's how you had a cave there, right? That would go deeper than just kind of a shallow rock shelter.
Right.
It's kind of caved in a little bit, which is what it was described at when Chris Bartell found it there, and he found traps right in the entryway of it. He found some animal traps, right? Mountain lion, maybe dire wolf. But that size, right, is the size of the trap. Probably from the pictures aren't that good of those traps, and I haven't been able to find one on the ranch. But they're probably from the 40s or 50s, where they were taking care of animals, trying to take care of their herd, and not have anything get killed. And that's probably what they were doing in there. So it was a mountain lion den at the time. The people, the ranchers were trying to take care of it. But he could see 30 to 40 feet back into that cave. And the entrance of the cave is somewhat still there, but it is so dangerous to go near it. I could see when I first got there, probably 15 feet back. I can see less than that now, probably 10 feet back. And we have the boulders up against it. And this is the area that is dithered in the maps that you say, it's right in that spot is this location. Wow. When you try to look back in there, again, it is all caved in. Maybe there was a floor that you could have walked back in and it would go into the kind of northwest, but it's falling away. All the boulders are falling away, and there's gaps that were really close together that I've monitored it that were inches apart that are a foot apart now, from overwintering. So it's a very dangerous mesa, and the whole slope is just dangerous to even be on. Those boulders are moving constantly. But it indicates, I mean, there's either hydrology or there is something foreign in there that is where we're getting this stuff coming from. I mean, we pulled the nickel out from who knows how far in there, up to 500 feet in there. Wow. There could have been a cave. There could be a cavity. It could be around something foreign, which is what Jan's finding in there. But we've got to get in there to see what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And we're all trying to figure out what's the best way for you to get in there. Some people, and I hate the ones that come up and say, blow it up. No, you don't want to blow it up.
We got to be strategic. We can use a little bit of that, but we got to be strategic to go in there. And then once we remove a little bit of the overburden, we'll have to slow it down, because the documenting of it is what counts.
Right.
Or no one will believe this, whatever it may be.
Well, and I have to hand it to you guys for documenting, and Brandon for being, so forthcoming with all this and being so open about it and giving this information out there for everyone to see. It's great. It's unprecedented, as he says. What I was thinking about, I was looking at Tom Burns's comment there. LiDAR does not go through rock, as far as we know. But I was thinking, Jan has put his GPR equipment down in these boreholes, and the small little pipe borehole, the 6-inch or 8-inch or whatever they were. He's put his machines down there. I was thinking Pete loves to put on harnesses. I was thinking put a tripod above the 4-foot hole, get Pete on his harness, and lower him down in there with the slam scanner. The slam scanner, because it does see through rocks sometimes when it's not supposed to. I mean, what do you think, Pete? And was that, that might work. Lower you down there and see what.
No.
I'll do it.
Ooh,
there you go.
There you go.
Next
you got a volunteer.
I love caving. I'll do it.
Yeah. Oh, I've done it myself.
Yeah. No, I'm too big and too old and too fat. I mean, we need somebody,
Well, I'll supervise it, but I'm not going to any talks.
Yeah, the green goo. Somebody had mentioned about the green goo, and it was funny because I think it was a dragon that was holding it in his hand, and then they were saying you might not want to touch that stuff.
Yeah,
and he's like, now you tell me.
Madness.
Yeah. No idea what that stuff does. So that's it's really we started with this thing, folks, talking about, if you go back to the early days of Skinwalker Ranch, they were, looking at something a mile high above the ranch, some kind of anomaly up there. Look where we have come to in 7 seasons to today, with everything that has been discovered. And I get people, will comment after this podcast is done. There'll be comments out there going, oh, come on, this is all a bunch of crap. They haven't found anything, blah, blah, blah. It goes on and on and on. I'm like, man, you don't watch the show. You really don't watch it, because they found a lot of stuff. And we've gone from those early days to where we are now. We have like I said earlier, we have the anomalies going on in the bubble, in the triangle area. And we also have something in the mesa that is producing metals and ceramics and data from Jan's GPR work that's going on there. And then you have, like, with Ben talking about the biologics that are going around, animals that shouldn't be there. It truly is mind-blowing what's happening in this area. And again, thank goodness for you guys to all be there. I have to show this picture too real quick, Chris, while we have you going. This was the where you were looking at this particular chunk that you were talking about, these chunks that came up, this particular chunk that came out.
Yeah.
And you were measuring it for radiation, I believe, right? And you were actually getting some readings there. Can you explore that or talk about this a little bit with us?
Yeah, that was pretty freshly broken when it landed there, but it had a little higher than you would expect in just a native reading coming out of it to see. We were testing every piece as it came up in case there was any threat of anything. That one did have, because it had just freshly broken apart, had a little bit higher reading. But each piece was tested in that respect, and each level we took samples of. having the cores come out, what we wanted was to not pulverize everything. That's why we did it that way, where it could give us actually a mapping going down into the mesa of what we're dealing with. And they ended up coming out, with each core, they didn't break apart. They basically were stratigraphically divided, and they would come out and be maybe it'd be 2 feet, maybe it'd be a 3-foot core of different sandstones coming out of there. So it lets us know going down in the mesa just how well defined it is, to know what the mesa looks like on the inside. And again, that core that you saw right there, that is not the level, but that's where the metal came out of, from well underneath that. That's actually probably about 8 feet in, I think, is what down in the ground is what that one came out of.
Wow. Now, is that unusual to have those kind of readings? I mean, it's still not.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
It was a little bit elevated, but it wasn't like scary
Crazy
elevation.
stuff. Yeah.
So, but it was a little bit higher. But you can get that out of rocks.
Yeah. Now, they haven't talked about this on the show at all, but have you? And don't answer this if you can't. But when they were doing all this drilling down in there, did they come through into any voids? Was there any? Because we watched them drilling on Oak Island all the time, and they often will hit a void as the caisson or the drill process is happening. Any voids that you guys came across that you can talk about with these?
In going through these cores, we went down through there. There was not a void. There was something interesting in one of them that I won't, I guess, go into.
Okay.
In case they do decide to address that. That was some interesting indications of some things, but not a void.
Yeah. So that's where I was thinking a cave or something down there.
Yeah.
Do you want to speculate a little? Can you? Are you? Is it what is in the mesa? Can you?
Well, I'll go with Brandon and say it's a Stargate.
The Stargate program.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I go based on the material that we pull out.
Yep.
What we have pulled out is not a cup and saucer, but it is some kind of material that is hard to define. It's been in there a long time. We've got multiple types of material with the different types of metal, right? They're all not the same metal. Like even before I got there, they pulled out those metal pieces that I'm still analyzing those. The ceramic material is very different. We've got the type 2. So we have multiple things that are coming out of there. We have yet to be able to put together the puzzle to say what it is.
Yep. Wow.
So, but everybody's got really all the evidence we have, everyone has seen, but it's what everyone has to understand, because you have people saying it's not something. If we were going to be making this up, I would have had all kinds of cool stuff coming out of those cores and those bores, and we would be able to build a UFO out of it to do it.
Nice.
But we don't. We've got all this stuff that's confusing, that pisses me off, that keeps me up at night, that I can't identify. It's not marbles and beads and pieces of ceramic and neat little things that you can put into your cubbyhole. It's very difficult.
It turns machines off. It blows up.
And the last thing I would have had come out of there was a nickel. So this is not the perfect site to be dealing with. We have those. We got great archaeology sites there, fantastic sites, but those are just your really interesting archaeological sites. And what we found was something that's so anomalous that it's crazy what we're finding. So that's the focus. But there's a lot of really great archaeology at Skinwalker Ranch that shows the prehistory of the ranch. We can go into that another time.
Yeah, Pete, what were you going to say?
Well, it's based on a comment a few minutes ago you made, Jeff, about let me try to stay focused here. What I like about if it's not apparent from watching the show, what all of this collective talent on this call, and if Ben was here to include him, provides is focus, right? Disparate data types and disparate information coming in at a frantic pace that in and of itself provides a lot of value. But the focus for me going forward and dealing with debunkers and people who are just, whatever, losing patience with the effort. It's all of this is not it's not happenstance, right? There's a lot of smart people working on this who
Yep.
are collecting different data types all the time. Well, how does that condense? How does that provide focus into what comes next? Where, hey guys, what's the logical next step? And that's where I just sit back and I just go, how did I get an invitation here? And it's only going to get, I feel it's only going to get more interesting because of that.
Yeah.
And a comment an hour ago about, well, something about sensors, and I don't, at this point for me, I don't care what the sensor type is. Bring it. Right? Because it's a data type, and perhaps one of us will go, hey, do you remember way back when, or do you remember Jan's data or Dave's data? And maybe there's a correlation there. For me, that's where it gets really, really interesting.
Yep. Yeah. And the fact, and I know it was mentioned too, I think when we had just a past podcast, that it was mentioned by Eric talking about the fact that you can go back now with some of the latest technology. You can now go back and look at some of the older stuff.
Yes.
Reanalyze it with new eyes,
Yeah.
with new software. And that's amazing. Never get rid of that old stuff. Just like those samples that Chris has been working around. Never get rid of that, because you don't know, when you might go back and look at it with the new technology or new software or whatever and you guys all just blow me away with what you bring to the table on this. It's a truly,
and I would be remiss if I didn't address the larger collective, right? Whether it's Mike or you, Jeff, or everybody on these podcasts. I mean, some real, interesting moments of brilliance in terms of an idea or suggestion, or it's, Brandon calls it unique. Yeah, it's unique.
Yeah.
This is
never been done before.
It's a collective. I've seen many times sitting at the command center when people are getting things from the outside, from the insiders or from different people, and they're saying, we need to look into this.
Yeah.
And nothing is off the table to explore, because who knows what we're dealing with.
Who knows?
Who knows who's going to come up with the idea? It's great.
It's an unknown.
We all learned that quick, eh, Chris?
Yeah.
Dave.
Yeah. It's an
What were you gonna
unknown.
say, Jan?
Sorry, I was just going to say it's an unknown phenomenon, and we have to be open to any reasonable method. And even if it's something that's a little bit off in left field, I think we need to be somewhat open to it, at least try it out. And if it doesn't work, that's fine. But, we have such a great fan base as well, and they come to us with some really good ideas. I reached out to a guy on the Skinwalker Ranch Reddit page who says, hey, I made my own phased array radar. Now, wow, that's actually really hard to do. The guy just made it. Now, he's not just a guy. He's obviously got a lot of probably electronic warfare background in his engineering skills. But I'm like, hang on, let me get in touch with this guy, and we might be able to use that on the ranch, right? That's really neat stuff. It's military grade radar that can be used to track very small objects at great distances. So amazing that we have this huge hive mind that feeds us ideas. And some of them are a little strange that involve tinfoil hats, and other ones are like, wow, you did what now? Please talk to me more.
Yeah, absolutely. And and that's the thing too, that you've heard from so many people that have come out to the ranch and brought their their equipment with them, whether it be the Doppler radar guys or a guy and gal or any of that kind of stuff. And then they come out, and Sky Elements is a perfect example of this, coming out with their first attempt at doing something on the ranch, learning from it, and then modifying or expanding upon their technology to make it better. Dave Mason, you doing the same thing with your differential FLIR. Jan, you've done that with your stuff, and and expanding upon it and come back. Okay, let me come back and try it again. Now I've changed this a little bit. Let's see what we got now. And that's what I think it's brilliant. And I keep saying that you guys are getting closer and closer and closer to coming to being able to, I think Travis said it, being able to see the anomaly whenever you want to, or at least when it's activated. It seems like it's being activated, or finding out what's inside that mesa, and actually getting to it. You're getting closer, and and like Pete and I were just talking about earlier about the people that poo-poo this whole thing. You're not going to solve this. Travis thought he was going to solve it in a week when he first got there. He learned the hard way. That ain't the way it works. But now he's fully invested into this whole thing, just like all of you are.
Yep.
And that pleases us watching the show to no end, that knowing that you guys are applying your expertise to this and growing your technology and your experiments on this as well.
Hey, where we go one, we go all.
Yeah. This is great. I'm so glad, guys. I know we're 2.5 hours, and I don't want to keep you any longer. If anyone in the chat has any last questions, do it now. Get your question out, because we're going to wrap this up. But because I know that I've expanded, I've held these guys longer than I wanted to initially. But honestly, I kind of had a feeling this was going to be a long podcast because of all the things we needed to talk about, and information that I wanted to try to pull out of them while they're here. So I can't thank you all enough for coming on. So like I said, if we're got a little bit of a delay, but if anybody has any last minute questions, get them in now before we wrap this up.
I can think of a comment because it went public this afternoon, thanks to Brandon.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Season 8.
Season 8. I know.
Season 8.
Yeah.
I
Great
mean,
season 8.
hello.
Yeah. Well, we kind of
We're
had a
back.
feeling that it was going to happen. You can't put this. Let me ask you guys this question here for all four of you. If the cameras left and there was not going to be a season 8, but they asked you to come back and keep working on this, would you?
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I'd be happier. It'd be easier.
Yeah. No camera.
Absolutely. It's
Right?
like,
They get in the way.
See,
The best times are when the cameras are off and the stereo's on and you're just doing archaeology.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Not
it's the
on their
best time.
schedule. If I had all the time in the world and a little bit of a budget to get some equipment in there, there's
Yeah.
so much more and so much more freedom for sure. I'd be quite happy.
yeah, I can only imagine. Well, I tell you what, that and Brandon would make it public. He'd keep it out there for all of us.
Yeah.
And if he needed somebody to, you guys, he has it all wrapped up. He's got the podcast. I mean, you guys could do the question and answer, make it a podcast and all that kind of stuff. But we are happy that there is a show. Otherwise, we wouldn't know much about this. And I got to thank each and every one of you, and including Ben Woodruff in this as well, for coming on and sharing your thoughts
Jeff,
about season 7. Go ahead, sir.
Sorry, I am going to interject because I see a lot of questions here, and I think I'd be remiss as a scientist not to at least acknowledge the questions about. I didn't see the episode last night, but within 3 minutes of it, everybody was texting me about certain Italian scientists that have been brought on the show. Obviously I'm under NDAs. I cannot comment on their inclusion or their inclusion of their method into Skinwalker Ranch, but I will stand by the science and I will stand by everything I previously said and any respectable scientist has previously said. But for obvious reasons, folks, you understand that I can't go into greater detail about that.
Yeah.
But I will always wave the flag of science.
Yep. Thank you. Yeah, you and I have.
Who else will?
Here,
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You bet.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Hell yeah, brother.
Yep. Yeah, that's so intriguing. Yeah, it certainly is. Thank you, Jan, for that. And yeah, there's more to come, folks. Man, I wish we didn't have to wait until June of next year to find out what's happening next on Skinwalker Ranch and what has been discovered. But if you're an insider, you'll get some information here and there as we go along with the insider program, which is fantastic. And I'll tout that again. It is a paid program. It's like $100 a year, a little less, $100 a year for it to be in there. And there's a monthly as well. But man, I'm telling you, you get a lot of information that the show does not give us on the air. So, really, yeah. Well, I tell you what, I'm a fan. Mike's a fan.
Yep.
We're all in on this. So that's why we do this. It's not one of these things where, I'm just talking about it because it's cool. No, I'm all in. I love this show and I love what you guys are doing. I can't say that for every show that's out there that's a reality type show, but I can for this one. I'm all in on it, and I love what you guys are doing. All right, we're going to wrap this up. Thank you, folks, for watching here tonight. We really appreciate each and every one of you. And as I said before, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel and click on that notification bell so when so you know when we have new material coming out. And I will do my very, very best to bring these gentlemen back on the show at some point so we can dig in a little bit more with Chris and Pete and Jan and Dave Mason. A little deeper on all this. Mike, thank you so much for co-hosting. You always bring it, Mike, each and every time. And Linda, thank you for your work as well.
I try.
Right. Yep. With that, we're going to say goodnight. Oh, good. 8.
Season, right.
Season 8.
This is going to be the one where all the answers come in, right?
Yeah.
Now we're just going to start throwing signs. 8.
that's the sign. The gang sign.
Yeah.
Enough with 6, 7. It's time for 8.
Yes. Thank you very much. That's exactly right. It's time for 8. All right. Good night, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We'll catch you next time on the J Free 906 podcast.